up, y'all? Kofi Kingston here, and I would love to have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks, depending on what that drink is, preferably non-alcoholic, you know?
How's it going, Healthy Warrior Game?
Soda.
I would love to have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.
Maple syrup.
Fella.
I would never have a drink with Wrestling on the Rocks.
Welcome to Wrestling on the Rocks, episode 1. That's right. Fuck. That's what happens.
Harry, you're on now.
Welcome to Wrestling on the Rocks, where every show is our first show because we don't get to episode 2 until we finish episode 1 correctly. And as you can tell, that's one thing we do fantastically.
Vocabulary issues. Take a drink.
Yep. Technical vocabulary issues. Take a drink. Guys, with me today on episode 1, we have the Beard at Beard_sports. Say what's up, Beard.
Hey.
And our guest today, guest of honor, the Don of RSide of the IWC, the curator himself, just in time, 211.
What up? It's your friend from our side of the IWC. What's going on?
Yeah, it is. I just realized I forgot my ref shirt. I'm gonna have to run up.
We got the coast covered, right? I'm on the far western coast as far as you can get. He's in New York.
Yeah, we've got 3 time zones.
Yeah, 4. He's on the Eastern time. I'm Alaska Standard.
I know.
Our side is worldwide for a reason.
Yeah, 4-hour difference.
Well, I'm saying, but we have 3 separate time zones on air here, and we still make it figure. We still figure it out. You know?
Yep, absolutely. Mm-hmm. Well, Arizona has its own damn thing. Like half the time they're on daylight savings time, half the time they're not.
Yeah.
Wow.
Arizona does not give a shit about you and your daylight.
I just wish we'd stay on it, honestly.
Yeah.
Never come off of it, but
yeah. But guys, it's good to have you here. Good to have you come have a drink with us here in the dive bar of the IWC.
Open for business.
Open for business.
I love the new production. Ref Marsh looks awesome.
You like the look of this for right now?
Yeah, the look looks really good. And if we had Kev, 4 would look really good. So like you could have 4 or 5 people and it looks great. And I love the background. You guys did a really good job. I just wanted to, compliment you on that.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. And there's probably easier ways to do it than what I do it because I like make it in Procreate and cut out windows and everything. And
we just look so you can see the people talking, like as opposed to us being on the screen of your show. Yeah. Where we see you great, but and then you see the people in there. Just it looks better. I like it way better. I mean, I know why you do the way you do it. It looks so good.
I like it better when I'm the main focus and you guys are secondary in every way.
I get that. I understand that. And that's totally fine. It's your show.
I can see that. I can see that.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with something simple, a little bit of what's in your glass. Let's start with the heavy drinker himself, just in time. What do you got?
We've got Mountain Dew Voltage today.
Is that blue Mountain Dew?
Yes, it is.
Hell yeah. I like Mountain Dew of various colors. The rainbow of Mountain Dew.
Don't give them ideas because they'll probably come out with it. And I know what? I'll probably still try it in the end anyway.
I'm not sure I would drink anything where the rainbow stays attached in the glass. That's scary.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Can you imagine if they did it like toothpaste?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
It's like toothpaste where it has ribbons of color in it and you just can't mix it up no matter what you do.
Well, but that's like a solid paste, not a drink. So like that's less scary.
It's less scary, but if Mountain Dew can figure it out,
let's see it happen.
Let's make it happen. Awesome.
I would never drink
it. Beard, what do you got over there? What are you drinking?
We got the Rock Terramana with a little bit of grapefruit juice and some salsa, also known as a Paloma.
Nice.
La Paloma, huh? Grim Reaper coming through here saying, hey. And then he goes, neither does Hawaii. Hawaii doesn't participate in daylight savings?
I think Indiana, there's other states that don't do it. I think Indiana for a while didn't do it. I think there's certain states that don't do, because I think half of Indiana is on Eastern Standard Time and half of it's on Central Time too, which is insanity.
That's a mess.
Like, okay. Like, why would you just not draw the line like on one side of the state or the other? That makes zero sense. Idaho is that way. The panhandle of Idaho is on Pacific Time, and the bulk of Idaho, the bottom part or whatever, is on Mountain Time. It's so weird.
They're gerrymandering the time zones?
That's always been that way, though. Yeah, it is gerrymandering, but it's like why did you? I don't understand why they drew the, like, if especially a state like Indiana that's like looks like this, right? It's an eye. It looks like an eye. You would cut in the middle of that. Why wouldn't you just go to the left or the right? It makes zero sense to me.
I bet you they voted on it.
Zone?
Well,
you know how I learned that?
Time zone correctly?
Yeah,
because I never knew this. The goat of color commentating and wrestling, Pat McAfee, because he lives in Indianapolis, and they're on Eastern Time. And I was like, really? I thought Indiana was on Central Time because it's like right next to frickin' Chicago.
Yeah.
And Chicago is like used to be, before they say 8-9 Central, they used to say New York, Chicago. On 8 o'clock New York, 7 o'clock Chicago, way back in the day.
Yeah.
Television, they would do like, especially like HBO and stuff. Be like, this is when it comes on in New York. This is when it comes on in Chicago. If you didn't want to do the math, right, you could figure it out because that's the most populous. If you live in California, you just know, okay, if it's on in Chicago at 7, it's like 5.
Yeah. Micah's coming through the chat, says, hi, everyone. How are you? Always a pleasure to see the toxic Micah in here. Well, this is going to get messy real quick. You can tell that guy is toxic, but that's why I love him. And Grim Reaper says, I'm a Code Red guy myself. And Micah brings up a point I was actually about to bring up. Thinking about the idea that small state, because it's not large. Like, you could drive across it fairly quickly. He says there's some poor minimum wage worker in Indiana who drives to work and changes time zones. Can you imagine being like a city over from your work and like you lose an hour or have to hurry there, and then
it
you
might
get
be
an hour
cool
back?
if you're on, like, there's a benefit where if you're on one side, you can be like, oh, I'm early all the time. And then you gain, I mean, there's, or when you're going home. So there's a benefit at least once a day, right? So if you're working in the Eastern Time and you go home, you leave work at 5 and within a minute it's 4. So that's sort of cool.
Yeah, but
like
can you
that
imagine, like, let's say you're the dude who forgot to change your clock over one night. You show up late for work and now you're 2 hours late.
I mean, okay, so that's
you're like,
true.
fuck.
But I'll just say that who in the F has a freaking alarm clock now? Everybody uses their cell phone, and your cell phone automatically updates. I mean, the only thing I switch over now is the stove clock and the microwave clock. And then if you're, depending on how old your vehicle is, you got to do the clock too. But
I actually don't use an alarm at all. I'm just like programmed to wake up.
Right, but
anymore.
if you don't need, Justin, you know what time it is because you have a cell phone. I'm assuming.
Yeah, he's also a cyborg. What Justin
I'm a
Time is
robot.
saying is that he plugs in via USB, and when he's fully done charging, he wakes up.
Yeah, I wake up on my own too, man, like all the time.
USB-C cord right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll go to bed at 1 and wake up at 5. Like, it's just the military in me. Like, oh, so many
And
years.
Grim Reaper says Tennessee is split in half and the part of the panhandle of Florida is central.
Yeah, I knew that too, which that even makes even less sense because why wouldn't you make Florida all east? Like, it's literally all the way on the eastern seaboard. Why wouldn't you just make them Eastern Standard Time? But the panhandle's on central. Yeah, if you look at the central time zone, it makes no sense, like, at all. Yeah, I think I knew that because when my buddy Donnie, who was my boss when I was active duty, he was a ranger instructor at the Eglin Air Force Base, which is in like Panama City. And so that, I think they were on Central Time. Like craziness. Justin, you're like
That's a bizarre friggin' thing. Like, how do you have two different time zones? That's
in the
just-
same state, right? Especially like I'm from a state that's a fifth the size of the United States. Literally, Alaska's big enough to have two of it, like to have it like two time zones. Like there could be two time zones in Alaska. It could be Eastern Alaska, Western Alaska. Like it should be an hour earlier in Nome and Bethel. Cause it's like, you know, if you were driving there, like distance wise, it'd be like driving from like Phoenix to like LA. And I don't even think I'm doing that justice. It might even be worse.
Yeah, I don't think that's true. I think it's actually further. I think that it's like going from LA to Texas.
I'm talking about from Anchorage to like Bethel.
Oh, I thought you meant like driving end to end of Alaska.
No, like from
just
like driving
his
Anchorage to
roster.
Bethel. Yeah.
No.
But Bethel is on the like Western Alaska. I mean, it's not Nome, Western Alaska, but
Micah says he'd like to try to secede and make a different state if part of my state was in another time zone. Yeah,
What?
like be an independent Republic of Indiana. Like if we're gonna have a different time zone, we're gonna be a different state.
what state is Micah in? He said also his dad used to be stationed in Alaska in the 80s. Was he a Zoomy or was he in the Army?
Oh, that's a good question. Very good question. Micah, last I heard, wasn't in the country, so I don't know if he gets to claim anywhere yet. But I don't know. He's constantly on the run. That's all I know.
What do you mean? he
Ever
wasn't
in hiding.
Sorry.
What? Micah's forever on the run and in hiding from the IWC for being so toxic. So he moves around a lot. Hard to ping him. Hard to catch his IP. I think that's the idea. He was Air Force. I am having in my glass
That's not really the military, but
a Broken Skull IPA. I know it's the koozie.
Oh my God, that's awesome.
I know it's the koozie, but it is the actual beer as well.
You son of a bitch. I'm jealous.
When I went
Me
to
too.
San Diego, every time I go to San Diego, the liquor store by my grandpa's house carries it for some reason. It's one of the spots I make sure that I always hit. Because when I go to other liquor stores in the area, you don't always find it. But the one like 2 blocks from my grandpa's, boom, I bought a ton this time. So
Nice. Well, yeah, I mean, I showed you where I texted you the location of El Segundo. Did you
Yeah.
see?
Yeah,
I mean,
we're
it's
gonna try
up
and
there
figure
in
it
LA.
out.
But I mean, if you're going to your grandpa's, you could literally go to her. I mean, that also
Maybe.
does not look like a very big building. So I don't think they make maybe that's like one of my favorite brewing companies is a company called 21st Amendment Brewing out of San Francisco. And they don't actually brew in San Francisco, and they have like a bar store in San Francisco. It's a few blocks away, but their actual brewing facility is ways away.
there's a couple breweries out here like that too. They had a big brewing area, and then just up the road was a little bar that they would let people check out. And they'd have like a small batch that was getting made in the little bar one, so you could feel like you got a tour, but you weren't seeing the actual spot. Micah does say if I was old enough to drink beer, I would drink the Stone Cold beer. That's right.
Yeah.
Micah is the singular representative of the IWC and the fact that they're all teenagers.
That makes me feel really depressed and sad right now.
I'm saying that's why we don't fit in the same way. We go on Twitter, we see pandemonium, and the three of us just start laughing. We go, "Oh, those kids on their playground. Just let them figure it out. They'll fall off that jungle gym." It's good stuff. Let's see. Let's get into a little bit of a few things. I do want to start off, since we have our drinks out, a little tears in our beers. Just before we went live, it was announced the passing of Black Jack Lanza. Jack Lanza was a territory wrestler for a long time. He worked with the WWE for a long time. It looks like from the outpouring I'm seeing that he stayed around the business for quite some time and helped train and teach as many people as he could, which fantastic. That's what
How
you
old?
want.
How old was he?
I didn't catch that actually. I don't know.
I think JR's 76, something like that.
Yeah, it's one of those ages where you're like, wow, that's not really that old. And then
Right.
you're like, he was a wrestler. Like, that's pretty good. Like 76, like But I don't know, man. Like I'm trying to think. Do you have a graphic of him?
Well, yeah, I mean, Cowboy.
Yeah, I don't remember him.
There's another one of them.
Yeah, and he did WWF. Yeah, I don't. He must have been before my time, even.
For sure, he was before it was officially WWF. He was more in the territories and such. He was AWA.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's in the WWE Hall of Fame because of the original Blackjacks, and they went on. WWE ended up having a new Blackjacks for a short period of time because of that as well, because of him and his brother. But Blackjack Lanza and them NWA Tag Champions, like, yeah, I'm just not seeing an age in front of me, and yeah, 86.
86.
Yeah, 86. So it's a pretty solid age, and for a wrestler, I mean, Roddy Piper said that wrestlers don't live till 65 even, and that was been kind of his thing that everyone started to keep an eye on, because he was saying that Social Security to him was an issue for wrestlers, because he says we don't live to 65. He goes, I'll be surprised if I live past 62, and then he died when he was 62. And
yeah,
people,
and it's different for each year you're born. I think I can draw at 62, but my wife's like, I can't draw. I was like, well, you were not born the same year I was born.
Yeah,
so I think that's how they do it, because she always gets a letter that says, don't count on it, the Social Security. I was trying to do the math of the last time I was a teenager, and I just got frustrated and didn't want to. I'll just say this: it was a long ass time ago.
Yeah, for sure.
It was like 26 years ago was the last time I was I guess 19, right? It was 26 years.
Yeah.
So the last time I had teen in my name was my age. It was a bit. Yeah. So that's why I said it makes me sad that they're all kids.
Oh yeah. Well,
Mitch says in the chat that Hacksaw Jim Duggan is cancer free too. So that's cool. Or I said Mitch, but I meant Micah.
Yeah. To hit the chat, Graham Weaver says Micah is the Cora Jade of our group, and that's true. He's an up and comer, and he dislocated his shoulder. And it also says Hacksaw Jim Duggan's cancer free, which I was going to mention as well. He did make that announcement that he's cancer free. I think this is this the second time he's beat cancer, or am I mistaken that?
I mean, speaking of wrestlers, I'm surprised that they're still alive. I'm just going to say, like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Jake the Snake Roberts, Diamond Dallas Page. Every time I hear their names, I'm like, oh yeah, those Mick Foley. Like, oh yeah, those guys are still kicking. That's awesome.
So great. I think also maybe I'm just misunderstanding one of the tweets, because someone said he's once again cancer free, and it made me think, is this a second bout? But it could also be that you start off cancer free, and then once you beat it, you're cancer free again. So I don't know. Either way, good news, fantastic news. We're big fans of Hacksaw here. We got to see him live. We've got to meet him a couple of times. Really cool guy. So cheers to Hacksaw on being cancer free for sure.
Ho!
Ho! I keep my little Hacksaw flag right here just in case.
Oh yeah.
Oh.
No, I mean, that is the greatest wrestling name ever. Like Hacksaw Jim Duggan, like the best name, and like and pretty good wrestler too. I mean, and the simplest gimmicks are always the best. Dude runs around with a 2x4, and why isn't that not used? Like, I know they have the kendo sticks and stuff, but you really could control how you hit someone with a 2x4, because you can cut it to the length that you can control, right? And the shorter, the less damage, right? If you're hitting somebody with a 2x4 like this, but you could make it look ridiculous. So I'm so surprised that that's not part of the shtick. And it's kind of PG, we're going back to this PG era. You could wield a 2x4.
He didn't cut his own planks of wood, and he didn't even carry the same plank of wood from town to town.
Yeah,
he'd go backstage and walk around, because it was always an arena or a stadium or a high school. There was always some sort of piece of wood somewhere. He would grab one of those and throw it back in the thing when he was done.
I mean, that's cool, but I'm talking about modern era, like where they have everything is like they have the physics on everything and what they can use.
Oh, for sure.
It's the reason why they still use the tables, the way the tables are, the chairs, those chairs and stuff, because they can control them so well. And it looked when those chairs, those collapsible chairs like we had when you went to church and stuff. I mean, like those aren't the chairs I was putting away at church are not the chairs wrestlers are getting hit with. You know, much lighter, right? You know.
Yeah, for sure. Micah does say in the chat, is Cora Jade in NXT? I'm too toxic to watch NXT. She is. Imagine if 2002 Avril Lavigne was a wrestler, and then you'll understand why we all fell for her so quickly.
I'm not an NXT watcher either, Micah. I'll just say this. It's because I don't have time. Like if I'm going to watch sports, like I'm going to follow hockey, like I follow hockey, and football, like I follow football, and college basketball and pro basketball, which I follow very, very little. I'm carving out 2 or 3 days a week to watch wrestling. It's the 3 being a pay-per-view week. I'm not going to watch NXT, and it's not because I don't think wrestlers or anything, but
that's not Micah's deal. Micah's just too toxic. He's got he's got
I get it, but like I don't know who Cora Jade either, but I feel like too, like, and you know, I thought the NXT was a great idea for the WWE because it's like, oh hey, we can make our own regional show and pick the best of that, and we don't have to go scouting everywhere, which I'm sure they still do. But maybe Ref Marsh can tell me, because I'm really interested in this part of NXT. NXT doesn't travel. They do all the shows down there at Full Sail, having been a Full Sail alumnus, even though I did it from my desk here. I'm a big fan of Full Sail and I like them a lot. And I love that they can like help train kids going to school to learn how to work in that business with wrestling. But I wonder about those wrestlers in NXT that they can't, like, they're not used to doing the grind of the regional shows and the traveling where you had to go around to make money, like Stone Cold and Mark Calloway, like The Undertaker, all those guys when they were coming up. And I mean, virtually every wrestler, really, whether it's you're from the UK or wherever, that seems like it's the mold. I mean, do you feel like the guys coming out of, and like who's huge from NXT, which I know Becky Lynch and stuff, but like is I mean, she could have came up obviously a different way and it wouldn't have mattered, right? So like, is NXT that big of a difference maker? And are those wrestlers done a disservice by not like being part of a traveling act?
Okay, so a couple things. One, they did travel a little bit. They had what they called a coconut loop, and it was a 6 or 7 different cities that they would constantly go around with varying degrees of attendance. I would say, if you want to know,
if I'm wrong, they're not doing that now.
As far as I know, they're not. But that doesn't mean they strictly are not.
Okay.
Because it was never something they advertised often anyways, because it was just small things. They would literally do bars. They didn't want all the WWE fans coming out. They wanted them to experience a little bit of that. I would say that as far as who's on the main roster that you would recognize from NXT who did not have much of a history prior to NXT, as far as wrestling goes or traveling or any of that goes, Roman Reigns, Big E, Bianca Belair.
Right, but time out though. Roman is a legacy, like his whole family wrestled forever. He's around that life, but he grew up in the life where you travel and all that.
But he didn't. He wasn't dragged around. He didn't go to all those shows.
No, I'm not saying he went to all the shows, but like even like The Rock's dad didn't live in Hawaii the whole time. Like they moved. He went to high school in like Pennsylvania and shit. Like so, like I'm saying, like if you grow up in that industry, and I'm not, and I know that doesn't apply to everybody, but I'm saying like even to get in an NXT, I'm assuming that some of the people that are getting in there is just not like rando athletes. They're like, hey, what do you want to do? Right? Like not, like Goldberg was a guy that was a football player. And say all he ever wanted to be was a football player, but then he couldn't play football, and he's just hulking looking guy, and he can bulk up, and so then WCW because he happened to be in Atlanta, he was a Falcon, yada yada yada. I'm just saying. I think the question I'm curious about is,
can I stop you there so I can still? Can I stop you there just so we can address everything you just said again?
Yeah.
If you want to know some other talent who never wanted to be wrestlers, who wanted to be football players, and due to injuries and things they were not able to do so, then again, I tell you, Roman Reigns. He was not trying to be a wrestler. He didn't want to live the wrestling life. He wanted to be a football player, and he didn't make it. The Rock wanted to be a football player and didn't make it. Big E wanted to be a football player and got injured. Like, these are people who did not train or live the wrestling lifestyle and got into the wrestling business outside of that.
Yeah, but hold on though. Like, specifically, The Rock and Roman Reigns are like, their whole families were involved in the wrestling business. So I understand. I mean, you never want to do what your dad did. You don't want to, like, my dad was a logger, by the way, cut trees down for a living. And it was a shitty job.
Sure. But just because you saw your dad do a thing from afar while you were at home doesn't mean that you have the ability to function even doing the same thing. Just because you know what it looks like doesn't mean you know what it feels like. So I'm saying that those guys not wanting to be in the wrestling business to begin with and having to find their way there by going a different route and not being the traveling type to end up in NXT or FCW at the time still holds merit, because there's a number of guys like Ricky Steamboat's kid went through there and didn't last because he didn't like the business.
Well, hold on though. I understand, but I'm saying, like, let's say you go out. I don't want to be. Let's say I go. I don't want to be a logger. I go out and I come back because I failed out in the real world, and my dad's a logger, and I go work with my dad. So, like, what I'm saying is, if your dad or family worked in the wrestling business and you're like, I don't want to be a wrestler, and I didn't grow up to be a wrestler, and I'm not going to do that, even though you didn't see it, you come back. If your dad's a plumber and you go out, you fail, you get kicked out of college or whatever, you come back, you're probably going to work with your dad as a plumber. You know what I'm saying? So, like, I feel like with The Rock and with Roman Reigns, like, their family was tied in. Now, what you're saying though, like Brock Lesnar was a collegiate wrestler. He didn't want to be a wrestler, right?
Okay, stop. Right. You got Brock Lesnar, you got Kurt Angle, you got Baron Corbin, Charlotte, you got a bunch. But the thing that I think you keep circling around about, and Micah is starting to bring up that point too, just because your family is in the business does not mean that you're going to be a success in the business. It means that, yes, you get the leg in, but not every person who had a kid turned out to be Randy Orton or Roman or The Rock. Like Micah said, David Flair was not successful. Arguably, Ted DiBiase's kid was not successful. Unfortunately, due to injury, Tyson Kidd never got to see the success that we would have expected him to have. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm not saying that either. I don't want to make the generalization that if your dad was in, you'd be successful. I don't want to make that generalization. And I'm not trying to. But I'm just saying, like, in a business that used to pride itself on its secrecy, it probably didn't hurt, especially for like The Rock and maybe Roman Reigns to some extent, that their families worked in there. So you understood it, right? Because if you didn't
understood a certain aspect of it, but you don't understand what it's like. And what that did, because this leads into our next news segment, what that did was, because those guys were injured and didn't have a way to make a living in the college sport that they wanted to go professional, then they did have a fast track phone call they could make. Dad, please call Vince McMahon. Let's get me a tryout. I got to see if I can make it. Some of them made it. Some of them did not. Yeah. But now the WWE opened up this program with collegiate athletes called NIL, Next in Line, to make the idea of going from collegiate sports to a sports entertainment type brand potentially easier bridge than having a family member in the business. I do want to hit real quick Sam Stackhouse coming through. Stackhouse, whoop, whoop.
Stackhouse.
He did say travel isn't nearly as miserable as it used to be. The problem I see with them using non-wrestling people is they probably won't last long. You have to like wrestling to do it long term. I see a lot of turnover in the future. I think that's also, like, I understand that narrative, but look at Stone Cold, Undertaker. These were guys who did not do well in sports and went to wrestling, and talked about how miserable it was for a long time. Like, they didn't
But
find
Stone
it fun
Cold
for quite
always
some time.
wanted to be a wrestler, though, and I think Undertaker too. I think both those guys.
They always
Stone
liked
Cold
wrestling.
has said straight up he always wanted to be a wrestler. He said he didn't want to be a football player. He used football to get himself college, but when he went to the wrestling school, like, he always wanted to be a wrestler. Like, everything I've seen in his, he loves wrestling. He watched all that shit used to come on his little TV in Texas, and he was like, classy Freddie Blassie, whatever he saw, like all that stuff back in the day. And I'm sure it was actually not as old as classy Freddie Blassie. Stone Cold ain't that much older than me. But yeah, I mean, like I'm saying, like, I don't know about Mark Calloway and The Undertaker, but I have heard Stone Cold and I'm a huge fan of him, a number of times being like, no, I never wanted to be a football player.
Well, The Undertaker wanted to play pro basketball, like Micah says in the chat, which I was going to bring up as well.
Okay.
Brock Lesnar wanted to be a pro football player. He wanted to do everything. That guy was a lunatic, so he's also kind of.
Didn't Brock Lesnar be the WWE champion though? After he'd been a collegiate wrestling champion, and then he went to try. So he was actually in the WWE, and then he went to try.
He did, he did. But my understanding is that he left because he always wanted to do football and felt like he was doing wrestling, and his football time was running out. But I don't know with certainty. And what's also crazy is the guy had no like football training and never played football on that level at all. Went through an open tryout and like almost made it.
Made the team. Yeah, no, he's a freak athlete. Like to hear Dana White talk about Brock Lesnar, and then Brock Lesnar was the UFC heavyweight champion in mixed martial arts. And I'll tell you, like the best athletes I went to high school with, we won back-to-back state championships, my high school, in collegiate wrestling. Those were the best athletes in my school. And all those guys, when they get out of college, what do? What's their career path?
Yeah.
If they want to keep doing athletics, it's pro wrestling, which is nothing like collegiate wrestling.
What's the cool thing about this NIL pro?
That gives them a little bit more of a thing. And so a lot of early on in MMA, a lot of the great wrestlers were doing really well. And Brock Lesnar was a 2-time Division I NCAA wrestling championship in collegiate wrestling.
Yeah, so, and imagine grabbing them early. But just in time, what were you about to say?
So that's the cool thing about this NIL like program is it gives all the collegiate athletes like a secondary option. It's like if you don't want to stick with, trying to go pro with basketball or trying to go pro with football, you have a WWE like career lined up for you next. Even if you're not into it, you could eventually get into being a wrestler. That's
or even vice versa. What if you start training in WWE, they don't want you, but you found out you do have a passion for it. You found out you do love it, and now you end up on the indies. Like, I mean, it just allows them a whole other aspect of looking at it. Something that I think people aren't bringing up here because he's just such an indie guy is AJ Styles. But I think AJ Styles is a perfect example of how this kind of stuff can work. He never watched wrestling. He didn't like the concept of the shows, was never a fan of it. You don't have to be a fan of it to turn out to love to do it. He went and trained with his buddies because his buddies wanted to be wrestlers because they loved wrestling. And he said, whatever, I'll go with you, because they wanted, buddies want to go with their buddies, right? He goes through, trains a few times and suddenly was like, I love this and I want to do this forever. You never know who it's going to be that does that, right? And I mean, look at Bianca Belair. She had never even thought about being a wrestler. Mark Henry never thought about being a wrestler.
He's a freak athlete. Same with Mark Henry. No, and I know I'm not saying that there was never.
But that's what I'm saying. But these are people who didn't know that they wanted to be a wrestler till they got in the ring. So I do think that the argument saying you have to love pro wrestling to do it long term completely negates the idea of the amount of people who don't know that they love it yet because they haven't been exposed yet. So we don't know these people can't be long term. When you have people like Bianca and Mark Henry and even Brock, where you're right, these are freak athletes.
Yeah.
But was AJ Styles a freak athlete?
Well, I mean, in some ways he has to be, right?
Right.
He's a freak wrestling athlete. But yeah, no, I got you. AJ Styles is such an interesting example. I'm so glad you brought that up because I actually didn't know that about his background. Because the dude is like he's like should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
right? We're talking about that guy.
Yeah,
in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, we were talking about putting him on our Mount Rushmore just last week. And here's a guy who didn't ever want to do it and just ended up doing it. And that's what I mean is like we don't know these athletes are going to love it yet or not. And I think that what this program does, and I think we're going to learn more about it as we go, is I think it's a middle ground between a contract and a tryout. It's somewhere in the middle. Where now we're keeping an eye on you, you're keeping in contact with us, and we're going to help you build your brand, and you're going to maybe speak out on why we're cool, and maybe there's a middle ground there that's not quite a contract and not quite a tryout, because before this kind of a program, you had to be a Mark Henry for them to just say, let's grab that guy and see if we can bring him in. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah, Micah is saying that Omos was a basketball player with no experience. Yeah,
That's true.
I didn't know his background, but it is kind of cool to hear like the Undertaker say really cool things about Omos. And I'll be honest with you, I was on the fence on Omos. I was kind of not a fan of that whole shtick. I felt like it'd been done a million times. It felt like $1 Million Man without the $1 million and Virgil, or didn't he have Tiny Zeus Lister for a while too? I always feel like Tiny Zeus was in the WWE with Monty. Wasn't he with?
He was against Hogan, and who did he team with $1 Million Man when
I thought
it was
he
Hogan
was.
and Brutus?
I thought
in
after
SummerSlam?
Virgil left or something. I thought it was. I thought Tiny Zeus Lister was.
Zeus was not there very long.
Okay. I knew it
But
was
he
short
did
though. I
have a couple of
remember
matches.
watching
There
him
for that
on
one
TV.
match.
He was there for SummerSlam. He was there with a match against Hogan and Brutus, and I can't remember his tag partner, but you might be right. It might have been $1 Million Man.
Yeah,
But
that's Macho.
Okay, maybe that's why I always
Macho.
get confused.
But it was also, they did a bunch to hype that up because of the No Holds Barred movie was coming out, so they wanted
No
people.
holds barred.
Yeah, it was a movie that starred Hogan. That's where the Zeus character comes from. It's literally an actor playing a crazy person in that
Wrestling
movie. What?
Is it a wrestling movie?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
You should probably watch it, but make
Yeah.
sure you're suitably not sober for it.
well, I'm that's now. No holds barred.
Yeah.
Who's the
Yeah.
stars? I'm gonna
Stars
look this
Hogan.
up.
It's got Hulk
Hogan's
Hogan.
the star of that? How the fuck did I not see that then?
Oh, it's a great one. It's a great one. I think Terry Funk's in
My
there, but
God.
but yeah. So I wanted to throw out a little bit of the conversation about the NIL because also talking about Hacksaw. He was a football player that I believe got an injury and then ended up going into wrestling. It was Ron Simmons, same thing. Like you had a lot of collegiate athletes who found their way into wrestling, and people are acting like the WWE being proactive and saying, let's stop having people get injured and come to us after the fact and start curating a program where we could get to these athletes early on. Could be a positive thing. Justin, I feel like we haven't heard from you in a minute. Tell me what you think.
I mean, I think it is a positive thing. Again, I know they're not scouting from the indies anymore. Well, it's just them now, you know? I think it's good to be ahead of the game. Like I said, it gives them an option. Like again, they may not be into it yet, but once they get a taste of it, it could easily change their opinion.
Yeah, they could determine if they don't like it and they step away from it. It could be determined if they go, oh my God, this is my calling. Bianca has said that she never thought about wrestling, and now that she's been doing it, she can't imagine doing something else. Like she
She was
so
a
much.
track athlete too, right? Like
Yeah.
she didn't know what she would do. If you're not an Olympian, there's nothing, you're not going to do anything. I added No Holds Barred to my watch list, which I believe you can watch for Amazon Prime. It does not get great reviews, by the way. It's a 4.4 out of 10.
Yeah, Micah brings up a good point too. He says, I know you don't watch Marsh, but Anthony Ogogo was an Olympic boxer who has an eye issue and now is a wrestler. Yeah, I remember seeing him. He's over in AEW. He seems pretty solid from what I remember. I saw a match or two with him. But yeah, I think he's just an overwhelming known badass in the UK. Like he's one of their like Mike Tyson types who ended up with an eye injury, and now it's all like, let's use him in AEW, and it's been largely a success. Like I think that,
Like you said, Corbin also. He's a football player and a boxer.
Who?
yeah, Golden Gloves. Baron Corbin was a Golden Gloves
Oh
champion.
yeah. I think Micah mentioned that earlier. Yeah, I knew
Yeah.
he played with Pat McAfee. Baron Corbin did. They were roommates.
He might have been on the same practice squad, but I don't know
Nice.
that Corbin or Mojo ever made it officially on major teams. I think they got signed with practice squads.
Well, you figure a lot of times on the so just the military in me, you do roommates a lot of times just to keep it uncomplicated. You'll make them your battle buddies like the next guy to you alphabetically, last name. So McAfee, I don't know. I don't know what Corbin's real last name is, but I'm sure it's probably close to McAfee, or it's a L or N last name, right?
Maybe.
So that I think whether McAfee's been on the NFL roster right out of college because kickers and he was doing all three. He was kicking extra points, kicking off and punting. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole.
Thomas,
obviously, Pat's a great example. I'll just say this about the NIS and all that. I mean, look, here's the hilarity of the whole thing. All these guys coming into the wrestling community, they all come from athletic backgrounds. It doesn't matter what the but that's why, because you can't be some fat piece of shit and be a wrestler. You need to have some athleticism. Because we're talking about beyond. That's never in question. I think my question was NXT really the big positive to build the WWE roster? Really I should have said yes or no. Like, what do you think? Yes or no? Does NXT build the WWE roster better? Yes or no?
It used to, and it will again, but it didn't for the period of time that it didn't. Which is, I think, also just real quick. Micah says Corbin is on one of the Madden games. Tell me what team was it? The Cardinals? Because my understanding is that
Colts.
The Colts?
Gotta be Colts. Pat only played for the Colts.
I know that he now only played for the Colts, but I think Corbin and Mojo were both on the Cardinals together at a certain time, but on the practice squad. So maybe he ended up as a Colt for a period of time. But I don't know that either of them got like a game time. But maybe they did.
His last name is Pestock.
Yeah. But as far as NXT goes, we did see the farewell for Johnny Gargano, and we'll talk about that tomorrow night with Amanda and Clump. Just judging by the photos and the look of it, I don't get the impression it was, hey, I'm excited to leave. It was, hey, this is just something that probably has to happen now. And I think he didn't resign because they knew what the future was. Because I do think that the black and gold brand, as much as people want to keep talking about how Johnny is the heart of NXT and the black and gold was this and everyone loved it and preferred it and it was the third brand, ultimately speaking, NXT, FCW, OVW, these were all put into place to get their next stars. NXT was next. That's what the whole idea was. We are NXT. We are the next generation. But they tried so hard to be the indies, and they didn't do it as well as AEW is doing it, that I think we're going to go back to them being a success. How many people during the black and gold era who stayed in there and became champion ended up on the main roster successfully?
A lot, but that was under the guidance of Triple H, right?
No, very little. Very little came out of the black and gold. It was prior to the black and gold thing, prior to this whole indie revolution. I would say after you had Sami, Kevin Owens, and Finn Balor and the Four Horsewomen, everyone else is real hit and miss. Once you really start getting into the Adam Cole era.
So you're kind of saying, and this is kind of good. Oh, sorry, Justin, go ahead.
It's actually been more people that weren't champions in NXT that have been champions on the main roster.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly
Okay.
My point, because the third brand was such that if you were going to be a success on the main roster, you were likely not going to be a success in NXT and vice versa. If we were going to tent pole the company or the brand on this person and make them our champion long term, there was very little foresight to where are they going to go from there. I mean, you had Drew McIntyre, Andrade, Aleister Black, largely an almost success, but largely a failure in some ways, or in a lot of ways. I would say that they just let him go too soon on that one, but maybe they just didn't see anything there.
It's like Seth Rollins is one of the exceptions because he was champion in NXT and he's been champion multiple times.
And that's what I mean. That was prior to that black and gold era, that indie era, the Adam Cole, Gargano, Ciampa era. You know what I mean? That's the era I'm saying is a black hole in their development and their TV. Well, and I think that now they're going to get to a place where they're building people to be successful on the main roster.
And I should say this from a business standpoint, the WWE may never have created NXT for to build their main roster or as a development thing, because they probably already had something like that anyway. They probably were like, let's profit off our developmental thing, and it can be just a totally different product. And so I'm sure there are people that are NXT fans that just watch NXT and don't watch anything else either because they like I'm sure there are, right? They have to exist. I'm just assuming if you like pro wrestling, you're going to watch something beyond NXT. So, again, I didn't think of it from that standpoint. You gave me a lot to think about. So
I do think that it used to be where people would watch NXT and not the main roster. I think now you're going to see more of a. If you watch NXT 2.0, you're probably watching Raw or SmackDown. Where before, if you were watching NXT and loving it and saying it was the best wrestling program on TV, you probably didn't like the main roster because they were so dramatically different. And I don't know if that's helpful for a brand to have a show that's so different that it's not creating a crossover. What's up, Justin?
I said prime suspect right here. Used to say that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, and I get it because there's that whole different flavors and people like what they like and all that stuff. Micah says I still think NXT being 2 hours and on TV is a mistake. I don't think I can argue that. I do think it should be back on the network. I think it was better when it was on the network than when it was on TV. I feel like the national TV thing could be an issue. It does feel a little bit like AEW Dark on TV.
So no time restrictions when it was on the WWE network. They could go as long or as short as they needed to.
It was
only an hour.
Oh.
It was an hour long, and they did a bunch of the coconut loop thing. So people were training by traveling and doing small shows. And when you were TV ready, they'd put you on a segment or two on that 1 hour. And then 4 times a year, they had a big pay-per-view associated called TakeOver next to one of the main pay-per-views of WWE. And that's when you would see the big, long matches. And once it got to USA, you started having 30, 40-minute matches just every week. And it was kind of like, to me, it felt like a lot. And to be honest, I wasn't a big fan of NXT Black and Gold. And I voiced it here a number of times. There were certain stories I liked, certain characters I liked. But for the most part, the show was hard for me to get through. So for me, I'm enjoying NXT 2.0 more in a lot of cases. I don't enjoy everything still. But I do think that I'm watching characters that I'm going to be able to be invested in long term, potentially, or I'm watching the development of people that I'm going to be able to see for long term. Where before I felt like I was going to a very expensive VFW show. And I was like, wow, this feels like something that anyone can. It just feels like an indie show on TV, which some people love that stuff. I go to indie shows when I can and they're fun, but it's not the everything to me. Good cop, bad cop, if they're around. Graham, he pretty much strictly likes the indies because he can go to those shows and meet those wrestlers and have those wrestlers take pictures with his kid and get those autographs. And when they become big, they knew them when, but he almost watches no mainstream wrestling. And I get that concept too. But yeah, I don't know. I'm a WWE guy. I'm biased.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's a great answer. It's an excellent answer. I just really wanted, obviously it doesn't make any sense if they're not using NXT to help build their brand further. And you could do the proverbial long story. It feels like when they have the opportunity to do the long story correctly, though, they don't do it. And I feel like that I get that a little bit from the Bray Wyatt thing, because wasn't Bray Wyatt also an NXT and he moves up? And it just feels like they could have done different things with him and he would just be massive still, I think. But that character is way more interesting to me than Roman Reigns. I'm sorry. And nothing against Roman Reigns. I just, I think there are better heels on the roster right now over him.
I think also Roman Reigns could be like a case study. Like you could write probably papers on the booking of Bray Wyatt and the potential and possibilities. Sam Roberts on Not Sam Wrestling YouTube, he put out a whole video that was like, 1 or 2 hours, like an hour and change, where he was breaking through the entire character arc of Bray Wyatt as we know it. And it was just, when you really break it down, I had the pleasure of being a part of that project and being able to put together a lot of the video components and taking the time to investigate each of these moments of Bray's career and character building. There was moments I was getting choked up and just like the beauty of the art that was clearly here, and somehow it was just missing the mark somewhere along the line, and you just don't get the impression that it was from a lack of trying on Bray's part, So I think Bray is a bit of an anomaly and a case study in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But to circle back real quick, and you said that you can't be a schlub, as it were, and end up being super successful in wrestling, you have to have some sort of athletic background prior to that. I would say that even that, there's a blurred line. There's always exceptions to the rule, I know, but AJ was not in sports before he did wrestling. He was just kind of a fit guy, but he wasn't even like CrossFit type. Even then, turn up my volume. I mean, I can do this. Even then, we had Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. They weren't athletes before wrestling, and they went into it. And they're not the collegiate athlete venue, but that's what I mean. Like, I think this is just another avenue of them getting talent. I don't think that NIL means we'll never get another wrestler ever. I think we've had a lot of success with a lot of former collegiate athletes. We did not have very much success over the past couple of years with all the indie influx that we brought into NXT. But we did have success with like the Finn Balor's, the Sammys, Kevin Owens. Even I would put Becky in that mix. But
didn't Finn Balor and Becky also like wrestle over like where they're
exactly.
From? Yeah.
Exactly. They were indie wrestlers for a number of years prior to coming in. That's what I mean. I think that there are going to be people that are going to be undeniably WWE style talent that will make it in. But again, those are always going to be anomalies. I think that Karrion Kross is everything that you would ever imagine a WWE superstar needing to be. And that didn't work out. And we just don't know why.
Well, is he gone? Did they release him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. That was a surprise. It felt like that guy could. I actually thought him and Keith Bearcat Lee. Still, I didn't understand that. I mean, if they are selling it and they're trying to increase the stock value or whatever, there are ways you could do that in budget cuts and releasing talent like that. I could see if you're on the fence, I mean, I would say too, like Vince, it's hard. He's a hard guy to argue with. What other promoter has made? I mean, The Rock could be. We talk about The Rock like he could be the president of the United States. I mean, Vince is a part of that. Like that's just crazy to me. So, like, if you think of all the work, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant. I know Andre on his own and stuff, so like maybe cut those two out because they were bigger than the business. But they helped the WWE, right? So Stone Cold, all these guys, right? John Cena, whatever. You can just say everybody. It's just crazy to me, like the influence. So like you have to say Vince knows what he's doing at some point.
Yeah, I think that's a difficult argument. I think also that some of these people weren't against. I think that there's a number of releases that are not due to budget cuts, but budget cut is the answer you give when you're a business and you want to save both parties from negative backlash in the media in any way. You just say budget cuts because it's a professional way of saying, look, we're not paying them anymore and we have money now. Like you don't have to give a why.
Well, hold on. This is the reason, though. There's a huge difference in how the wrestling business is run now as opposed to how it was run in the 80s. And it doesn't have anything to do with there's no difference in making money. Back in the 80s when the WWE wasn't a publicly traded like New York stock, right? Vince could do whatever the hell he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And he didn't have to answer for shit. He could say exactly why he got rid of so-and-so, right? Now, they're obviously going to do the way you're saying, but also they can cut costs and budget by releasing talent and therefore driving their profit margin, therefore increasing their stocks, therefore making their shareholders happy. So it's a whole different world when you're talking about WWE, the publicly traded company that it is now, to what it was,
I'll tell you right now.
Attitude Era, I don't believe it was publicly traded, or was it around the Attitude Era that it became?
It was like 2001 or 2002 that they opened up the stock, but it was it was when WCW was still around. It had to be 2000 or 2001, but I would say that as a stockholder, I've taken great notice that every time they have a slew of releases, their stock does not go up. And that's what I'm telling you. I don't think budget cuts is the real answer. It is we don't have to fucking tell you a mind your own business professional way to say that.
I get that too,
they say budget cuts just because they're saying it.
The old World Wrestling Federation would not have given a shit.
Okay, but they did. They did give a shit because they used to say the same thing. Budget cuts or we wish them well. Because the idea is this. You never know if you're going to do business with someone again. And you don't burn bridges and you don't bury someone. Outside of Ultimate Warrior, they decided to really try to bury the shit out of that guy once. But for the most part, they always kept it close to the vest because you don't know what's going to happen down the line. And if you want to do business with this person again, you don't want it to be a PR nightmare, whether you're publicly traded or not. But with that in mind, all I'm saying is that the Keith Lees, the Karrion Crosses, Bray Wyatts, there's a number of releases that were given the answer budget cut that I, for one, don't believe at all, and for two, think is much more complicated than just we didn't have anything for them. I think that there's more to it than that. So I'm just saying, who knows? Until we really truly hear, then we're not gonna know. And the quote news outlets have no more idea than us, to be honest. Micah does say, oh yeah, because NXT was only an hour, not every wrestler was on consecutive weeks because of timing, which is good too, because it gives you a break from the guys. And he says, I think it's interesting that Nick Khan does interviews because I don't remember Vince in the past 10 years doing media at all. And Jeremiah brings up, he's done some Bob Costas interview. That was more than 10 years, isn't it?
No, they did a couple. He did a real good one with him just a few years back. I think they've revisited that interview. Yeah, you can check Peacock.
Yeah, Vince has done a few here and there, and he does all the media calls, those stock calls. He's usually hosting those, and media is usually involved in that, and those recordings go out. But I agree, he doesn't do like the type of interviews Nick Khan is doing. And supposedly, I heard that a Raw event not that long ago, someone took note that Nick Khan had walked out ringside and was like shaking some people's hands and saying hi to them and stuff, and thought that was a little weird too. But I don't know. I think that it is a little weird. If we're talking about WWE as a possible sale, and why not? Because here we all are. Justin, unless there's something that we've skipped over you wanted to mention?
Nope. Keep going.
let's hit it. One theory we have here in this house is that, Micah says real quick, budget cuts to me is a term that protects the wrestler as much as the company. And that's what I'm saying. Exactly. I think it protects both parties incredibly well. It's budget cuts. So that way you don't have to say, hey, person refused to get vaccinated. Hey, person was a problem backstage and was trying to get people to sign some sort of petition. Right. Hey, this person was overly political and was an asshole. You know what I mean? Yeah. But
for sure those happened.
Oh, for sure. You're not going to release them and say, well, we released them because nobody on our roster wanted to work with them, and they weren't very manageable, and they were hard to talk to about things that were clearly issues. You put that out there, now that person has a hard time getting a job, now they can be sued for libel. And now what if you want to bring them back later? Then it's like, oh, you brought back the asshole? You know what I mean? It protects everyone. Racist. There's a lot of things.
Racist. Yeah, I mean, I 100% agree with everything you're saying. I think that's dead on accurate.
Yeah. But if we're gonna talk about sale just a little bit, one theory we have here in the house, and I'll put it out there. Do you think it's possible, because there's clearly more than just the budget cuts we hear about on the dirt sheets, because the dirt sheets only care about the wrestlers. They don't care about the corporate people. And one of the things we do here is we do watch the corporate people through LinkedIn. You can see a lot of the corporate accounts. And they've offloaded a bunch of corporate accounts and brought in a bunch of new ones. We are wondering and speculating, is it possible that WWE is bringing down the value in so many ways to make the purchase of the company easier for someone specific, instead of just saying open up the bidding and get it to a NBC Universal or a Nick Khan or a Fox Sports or a Disney, as people have speculated? What if they're trying to get it sold specifically to $7 Entertainment, to The Rock himself? Because who would have more invested interest in the way things are and the most respect for the company in and of itself and the man who founded it than a third generation, larger than life person who is a proven business commodity? Okay. Owns $7, owns Zoa. He just opened up a whole other business. I forget the name of it. Now owns XFL and has reestablished all of the XFL's CEOs, their corporate entities. Instead of being from Texas, all of a sudden they brought in and hired, because we follow them on LinkedIn too, they hired a ton of execs out of Connecticut specifically.
Yeah, I knew that. So to clarify, you think they're driving the value down so The Rock can afford it? Because that's not happening though. Like they're at the all-time high. No, they're at like an all-time high profit and trading margin right now for the WWE.
Their trading is absolutely dismal.
Their
stock is very low.
Stock, but the value, the WWE's reporting record highs in revenue.
Of profit, but not in stock. The stock is going down because people are afraid.
So I guarantee you, it will go up. They're not doing a good job of driving the value of their company down because the value of their company is going up.
Okay, so hold on.
And I'm telling you, if the McMahons are selling, they're going to get what they can get out of their life's blood. We're talking the UFC sold for $4 billion. Right? Yes. $4 billion for the thing. The WWE is going to be around that way. It's going to be about $4 or $5 billion.
Okay, so let me paint this out a little bit. Wait, Justin, were you about to say something?
I can't see them like lowering the worth of their company for one specific person at all.
Yeah, I can for two reasons. And let me explain a couple things real quick. For one, if you need the right person to buy it, you could do that because you know the value will go back up. But for two, the stock is going down, but the value of the overall perception is going up because they're making big money deals. If you buy the majority share of a company, you own the company. If they drive their stock down while keeping the value of the product up, you make it easier for someone to purchase the company if you're willing to sell them your share of the stock. If you bring your stock down low enough, then someone can buy your company at a discount rate and you can still pocket a shitload of money because you already made those $5, $6, $7 billion deals with Fox and with NBC. You still have all that money. You're still making all that money, but you've made it easier to purchase by having your stock down, but the company's value high.
Valid point. Valid point. I hear what you're saying. But essentially they're not devaluing their product.
Correct.
You're saying they're devaluing the stock for a takeover, said whatever. And it doesn't, essentially every time you see a company buy out another company, that's what they're doing anyways, buying out the stock. Yes. So, and usually the stock is not valued very high, regardless of the profits of the company. Although you would find that be very counterintuitive. I'm not an economics major or anything, so it's just funny to me. I'm not saying that we're not there. I do think the WWE is going to get sold. I do think we're going to see that. I think that's going to happen in the next 4 or 5 years. And
I do too, but I think that it's going to be specific. I don't think you would give it to a Disney. I don't think you'd give it to NBC Universal because you just don't know if they're going to treat your entity the way you want it. And I think someone like Vince, who's obsessively lived his life around it, wants to sell it to who he wants to sell it to. And I think it could be The Rock. I'm not saying it is all this, but here's some good stuff in the thing. Fabteen also brings up Terramana, The Rock runs, but it says, I can understand it for The Rock. Rock is wealthy, but he's not a massive empire wealthy. And Micah says, I still think WWE is going to buy something or invest in something big, like for a new division, like VR tech, like Facebook, Meta, or Nick Khan is just streamlining things. He goes, also, Marsh, I think what you described is a crime. In a lot of ways, yes. Market manipulation is a crime.
Insider trading.
Yeah. FMP says, does anyone see another McMahon? Another McMahon will take it on. Doubtful. Yeah, I don't know if a Stephanie, Shane, or Triple H even would take on the WWE solely. You know?
Triple H's health, I really am concerned. I think with him having that almost dying, and he's not very old, I think they were like, you know what? Let's just be grandma and grandpa. Let's be father and mother to their kids are older, right? Triple H and Stephanie's, I think, are actually like almost teenagers and stuff now. So I could just see them wanting to settle down and not be the end all be all legacy. I know that Linda McMahon ran for Congress at one point, but I would be devastated to see them out of it, but I also think, it might be the best thing for their family.
But also on top of that, if The Rock bought it, why wouldn't he keep everyone in place? Because if The Rock owns it, maybe he owns it with the idea of keeping it as close to the same as he can for as long as possible. Triple H stays the same. Maybe he brings in a couple of his own dudes, but maybe a lot of the infrastructure stays exactly the way that it is, just with The Rock as the owner. And he's got the business being run by Danny Garcia and such.
Yeah, maybe that. If The Rock owns it, it's a name only. I don't see him being involved. It just I'm not saying you're off base. Everything you're saying makes 100% sense. Like I could see it going down and happening. Like it doesn't seem unfathomable. I'm just saying The Rock being like the head of the WWE and stuff. I just don't see him wanting to do that or it being a part of his brand. I don't think he needs it at this point.
He's been bringing up the WWE in a lot of his interviews lately, and he doesn't always. But in the last year or so,
unfathomable. It feels like it's plausible that it could happen. I'm just saying, like I do think the WWE is going to get sold if The Rock ends up buying it or being a part of it. I think, like you said, his business will run it, but I don't think he'll be like a figurehead.
I mean, I wouldn't have any issue with The Rock picking it up. I mean, he seems like he loves that freaking company. Like,
yeah, for sure.
And what more of a, I mean, what opposite figurehead do you get from Vince to The Rock? If people hate WWE because of Vince McMahon, I hate Vince McMahon, therefore I hate WWE. How many people would turn around and love WWE because of The Rock? The Rock's in charge of WWE now. Now I can't miss it. Now we have a good person in charge. Finally, the evil Vince is out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I don't think Vince is keeping people away.
I think a majority of AEW viewership comes from a fan base that stopped watching WWE strictly because of their personal feelings towards Vince.
Yeah.
I truly believe that.
But, you know, going PG, though, I think was a big thing for a lot. I see a lot of that in the AEW. The stuff I see on BR, which, again, you know, is owned by TNT and Turner, which in turn owns the AEW. So I know there's a conflict of interest, but the fans that are commenting about AEW or the anti-WWE comments I read and usually are in favor of AEW, I always wonder if it's just like, oh, you know, I don't like the PG brand. it needs to be tits and ass. There needs to be a little bit of risque to it. And I wonder if it going a little PG or more politically correct and stuff like that really puts a lot of that fan base off. I'm not saying that wrestling fans aren't Rhodes Scholars, but I'm saying I'm not sure they might not be confused with like the greatest fans either. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So and I think you're talking about a lot of adolescents too. The Beavis and Butthead crowd still exists, but there's just no Beavis and Butthead right now, so they don't want to watch WWE. You know what I mean?
Most people just want a happy medium with it more than anything. Not too childish, but not too over the top, like sexualized and everything else like that.
Yes, I agree with that. That's what I want. Micah also, as a side note, as far as whether or not what I described was illegal, I would say, can you think of anyone in the world who feels more bulletproof from the law than Vince McMahon? Either way, Micah does say, did Vince buy the Fed from his dad because he can sell to Triple H, or a combo of Steph, Shane, Triple H, or just give it to them? I mean, that's all possible. And he did buy it from his dad, but I think he bought it from his dad on a loan. It was something like he had a certain amount of time to pay his dad back, or he had to give the company back over. He said, I also don't see Vince selling the company while he's alive and in good health. I don't know. That's a tough one. But Fabtine also says that she thinks that if The Rock owned it, it would bring in casual fan base, and I agree to that.
No, I actually thought that was part of the point you were making, was about the casual fan base. It would help actually bring back fans that hated Vince and stuff. I mean, I feel like that was the whole basis of your argument there.
Yeah,
so,
I agree. Yeah. Well, I just want to throw that out there, see what you guys thought. Get it out on record, because no one else is talking about it.
I can see it happening.
I can too now.
Yeah, it doesn't sound far-fetched at all. I mean, whatsoever. And as far as him being directly involved at all, like he could still be probably involved and with very little of his own time and stuff. Everything else is run by other people, like you said. So, and if The Rock is not nothing but an entrepreneur, right? I would feel like him and Mark Wahlberg, those guys, they transcend acting, because they're all about, oh, I'm going to get into this, I'm going to get into that, I'm going to put money into this, I want to make money out of that, and this and that, and you know, like they know that they have to take advantage of this celebrity and fame and stuff, but they can also like make sound investments and stuff like that. So, but yeah, Micah says, so if The Rock is POTUS, President of the United States, and he puts WWE in the blind trust during his term, who is in control? Yeah, that's a good question. I do hope The Rock becomes a president.
I want him to do both. Why can't he do both? I think that at that time, though, if you're running for presidential office, you're making those moves, right? Isn't that what Trump did when he was running for office? He put like his kids in charge of certain businesses. So that way the businesses he could still be making money off of secretly.
Gave him jobs at the White House. I don't know. Like,
yeah. I'm just saying, like he would do something like a Triple H or like a Nick Khan or maybe he puts it in the hands of Sami Zayn. I don't know. Maybe The Rock has Mick Foley run it while he's away.
Sami Zayn is the elder statesman of SmackDown. He should maybe consider. Did you guys see? I mean, like I thought it was unnecessary. I thought of the Rock and Sock with Brock and Sami, and I thought, oh my God, are we gonna have like the Odd Couple on in the ring again? And I was fucking so for it. And I'll be honest with you, I was a little, and it doesn't mean it's not over, but I was a little bummed out that happened. And I'll tell you why. Because now, yes, okay, we get day one Roman and Brock, but I think that Sami Zayn's going to interfere in that match and Roman's going to win. And I would say I want to see Brock beat Roman, because I'm tired of Roman being the champion, and I think it's old hat, and they need to change it up. But I know Ref Marsh could have a brilliant articulate point that, like, probably says contrary. But I'm just saying, like, what would have been bad about Brock, wrestling Sami Zayn at day one? I think it would have been awesome. We didn't get to see it because what was the more likely thing? Brock comes and messes with Roman loses his title. That would have been awesome. And they just kind of deprived us of that. It would have been cool. And like Roman being the guy for another 900 years just doesn't mean anything to me. Like, who cares? Like, if you've been the champion, you've been the champion. If you're the champion 14 times or you were the champion once, what sounds better? Oh, but you were the champion once for 5 years. Okay, but you were the champion once. Yeah. You're not the 14 time. You know what I'm saying? Like,
have you heard about Bruno Sammartino?
Yeah.
He was a champion one time.
Right. But for
long? like 4 years or 5 years or some shit.
Yeah.
What was it, Justin? What was that?
Like,
I think it was
WWE also. And I get that. Like, I'm not
Justin,
saying.
Hold on. Justin was trying to talk.
Right?
I think it's 8. I think it's 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that both reigns are reasonable to brag about. You can get bragging rights out of being a 14-time champion. You get bragging rights of being one-time champion for 8 years. I think that's where we're at.
What's Annabelle saying? VOI, FYI?
That's a bot, but I do want to real quick, because I saw that Stackhouse made a few comments that I missed, and I feel really bad about that. I never intend to blacklist Stackhouse. He's our number one, and he is okay. He does say that he goes about going back to when I was talking about the wrestlers who were not into wrestling at the time. He said, but they liked wrestling. They may not have wanted to be wrestlers as a career, but they were wrestling fans. It seems they're just signing people that can run and jump fast. Most of them probably don't know much, if anything, about pro wrestling. And they said that's a fair point. I'm assuming because I followed that up around that time about the non-wrestling fans who just discerned that they loved it, like the AJs. And then he says, I do all right. And I'm sure that has to do with you talking about schlubs on the indies. He's our indie schlub. But I see what happened was, because we have Stackhouse as like a preferred account, his messages jumped to the top of my screen to make it easier for me to see, but my thing's scrolling down. So it actually took his messages and flung them to the top where I couldn't see him, which is really weird. But something I'm going to have to try and
fix.
What
platform is he on? Is he on Twitch?
He's on Twitch. Yeah, he's on Twitch. I don't know why I did that, but it did it, and I feel bad. But Stackhouse is our dude. Go to check out ProWrestlingTees.com/Sam Stackhouse and get your Stackhouse merch. Also, I feel really bad. He had an amazing Black Friday sale with shot glasses and shirts and stickers, and he was selling custom stickers. And it is just a bad year for this household as far as income goes, and I was not able to spare $35 that week.
Well, our car took us out. That's what it was.
I had to get new brakes, and
That's what it. We're not normally poor.
we're not usually this poor,
Whoa,
but we're really
God?
poor right
Is that God talking?
Yeah,
There's a car.
yeah,
God has a car problem?
yeah. The producer here.
Hi, producer.
But yeah, it was I felt bad. But you guys should definitely go on there, pay whatever his full amount is for that stuff, because it's worth it. He's killer. And then Micah says, wasn't Stone Cold CEO of WWE for a month? He made people answer the phone with "Who the hell is this?" and other shenanigans. This is true.
I think that was not in reality, but that would have been effing awesome if that was real.
Yes.
I remember that very.
It works. There was a period of time Ric Flair was the president of WCW, even while he was the in an insane asylum, and he was calling Charles Robinson to do his bidding via phone calls, and Charles Robinson was acting president, so Charles Robinson could step into the role again and be acting president of WWE.
Did they actually? Flair wasn't actually in an insane asylum, but did they actually like show him in the insane asylum when he did it? Oh my God!
Yeah,
Oh, that's awesome.
in like underwear and those little hospital gowns and socks and stuff. Like, yeah, it was great. It was great stuff. But so yeah, there's options. There are options. Jeff Jarrett, he's always in the business of running a wrestling organization. We could see him run WWE and come out and become champion 2 days later. Would be delightful.
Oh,
Always
boy.
But let's go back to what Beards talked about just a minute ago. Sami Zayn versus Brock Lesnar, day one. Were we robbed? Yes. Yes, we were. But the seedling is out there now. Now we've seen what Brock Lesnar and Sami Zayn are like together, and I think it's incredible. I do think as a tag team they could be best champions of all time. I do think as adversaries we could have a WrestleMania main event like none before. I don't know, Justin, what did you think of the Sami and Brock Lesnar shenanigans?
Can we just say one thing? How underratedly hilarious Brock Lesnar is. My God.
Yeah.
He's hysterical.
I tried. I could not
great.
stop laughing.
You did a good job.
His whole Sami Zayn, right? It's Sami Zayn, right? Yeah, Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns. Look at it. And I'm like, I'm trying not to just die laughing here. I'm like, it's not working. It was just those two.
Dude, it was the odd couple.
It's gold. It's absolute gold. It's wonderful.
It was incredible. I liked every moment of it.
The facial expression Sami Zayn had in response to Brock, and Brock just smiling at him. We both win, buddy. Give me a high five, pal.
It's a shark smile. The shark's teeth smile. It was so good.
Sami looking over it at Brock, just like, oh, it's great. And then turning over to Sonya, like, don't let it. And then she does the thing. He's like, oh. It's so good. And Brock's line, like producer said, where he walks out and is like, I'm sorry, who are you? Are you a fan? Is that why you're out here? You're a fan? Sammy's line, we're just a couple of alpha male Canadians doing their thing.
Yeah, we get so it's sucked in from Brock when he gets a title and he just never shows up for so long and all this other shit. Like, my God, when you see him, he's fucking hysterical.
Yeah, I love his new look too. Like his whole thing is great.
Micah has 2 comments in here, and if you guys want to jump in the chat and derail the show like Micah has done here so toxically all day, you go to twitch.tv/wrestlingontherocks or just wrestlingontherocks.com and go to any of our platforms there, right on our YouTube, youtube.com/wrestlingontherocks. We're live there, and it's far on Twitter as well, which is at WOTR the show. But Micah does say Flair was also owner of WWF when Shane and Steph sold the alliance to him. That's true. That was a storyline for quite some time. So Flair's the only person besides Vince to own WCW and WWF. And Micah says, it's a shame Brock didn't talk for years, and I understand Heyman is a god on the mic, but Brock knows how to talk very well. Okay, I think there's 2 parts there. I don't think Brock always was. I think Brock has learned a lot from the guys he has, and I think that part of what makes Brock so good now is the fact he didn't talk for so long. I think we wouldn't find him this funny if we didn't hate him for as long as we did and find him so silently intimidated for so long. We hated him for being quiet. We hated him for only showing up to kick asses. And now that he's coming out smiling and talking, it feels different. You know what I mean? He doesn't say too many words, but he says enough. What was that, Justin?
Yeah,
Go ahead,
even
Justin.
the main event, I loved the whole.
Incredible.
I think they should. The only thing I would have twisted up with that whole main event was give Sami that one little second of where he got the like a 2 9/10 pin.
Yeah.
When Roman did his ooh-ah in the corner, just tweak it, just have him sidestep. Roman hits the post. You get a haluva kick. You get the 2 9/10 freaking so close pin. That way Sami can go around and go, hey, I could have beaten you if Brock Lesnar didn't beat the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, and that might happen anyway. He might attack Brock Lesnar when he's at day one Roman Reigns. I believe that's what will happen. But yeah,
crazy.
yeah, I was a huge fan of the whole thing and was really sad that I feel like they could have taken it a million different ways. I actually love what you said too, Justin. You didn't even have to give Sami the win. It just would have been fun to be like Brock sits ringside with his shark smile with Sami and Roman actually have a real match, even though Roman wins, but just to be like psyching out Roman the whole time. I thought they missed a lot of opportunities to even like play with the emotions more. It almost, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like they cheated us a little bit on that, where it could have gotten like, it just could have gotten so much better.
Yeah.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
The funniest thing would have been is if they actually gave that time and we had Brock Lesnar on commentary with Pat McAfee.
Oh,
I would have never made it through that match. I would have needed help trying to get through that.
That sounds so awesome.
You know what'd be amazing is because of how Pat is, if he had Brock Lesnar sitting next to him, he would say, hey, Brock, Michael Cole was telling me earlier, and then say something awful and be like, what do you say to that, Brock? And Michael Cole would be like shaking his head like, I didn't say that. You know what I mean? Like,
It would be so good.
It'd be incredible.
So good.
Let's not give Michael Cole another Heidenreich moment.
oh. Micah does say, so WWE has pay-per-views on Saturdays now? I don't know if I like that. I don't like it when AEW has them on Saturdays either. All right.
No, I like them on Saturdays, man. I want to watch football on Sunday. So
I wish
like
their
them on
pay-per-views
Saturdays.
fell more on Saturday than Sunday.
yeah,
I know everyone in the UK prefers them on Saturdays.
Yeah, because
like
they all go to
internationally.
church on Sunday. Yeah.
Internationally, Saturdays are easier for viewership outside of the US, but I don't know what their deal is or why. I don't know any of that, but I don't think I personally have a preference.
I like Saturday.
Me too.
I'm not bothered by either one. I think they're both fine. But apparently, Mike has got a big issue with it. So fucking toxic.
Sorry, Micah.
So toxic. You're toxic.
That's a good point. Yeah, Brock and that. Okay, well, let's talk about Liv and Becky.
What about the girl, the little girl? The
She was
meme?
great.
I loved her. I loved her reaction.
She was so fucking pissed.
Oh,
Like, I told Stephanie, because Stephanie was in bed with me when we were finishing up. I said, watch this little girl, because I saw a little advance on Bleacher Report that this girl was trending. And so I was like, I got to see this, like, play out. And this fucking girl was like, it was the best shit ever.
so good.
The Miz girl
Honestly,
all over
it
again.
made me not mad that Becky won, because I was like, I wanted Liv to win. I thought it would have been cool to have Liv win. Because I don't know what they're doing with Becky. Like, Becky hasn't faced any adversity. She doesn't need it to be an effective heel. So I just felt like she could have given, and she did. The match was great and all that, but like, anyway, the best part of that whole thing was that little girl's reaction, man. That was
The Miz's girl, that little girl that was in the crowd when she gave him that death stare, is so much funnier.
Oh, that's
Oh,
true.
I didn't
yeah.
see that. Was
Yeah.
that a
Oh my
different-
god.
I think Miz cashed in.
Miz cashed in on Randy Orton successfully. And oh my god, this one little girl in the crowd has like the most demonic freaking look ever at the Miz that he won that title. And I was like, oh my god, she is like, if she you could probably see like just flames coming off of her. Like,
Yeah.
she was
Oh, yeah.
so pissed.
Oh yeah. No, and that Liv girl, her eyes were almost red. She was gonna cry. She was so mad, and I loved it. I loved every second of it.
Yeah. Well, that was what I saw on Twitter. There were a lot of people that were pissed, or maybe it was the Bleacher Reports. They're like, "Oh, the WWE doesn't service their fans." And there are a bunch like, "I like Becky. Well, I wanted Becky to win." So it was like 50-50. You know how it is. You're gonna please some of the people some of the time, right? So
here's the deal. Booing is not getting an authentic boo is not servicing your fans. And I think that people forget that. They think that it's only servicing your fans if I cheer when I like something and I boo when I know you want me to boo because you know I like to boo sometimes. But getting authentic reactions is not showing a service to your fans. Because what happens now is when Liv does something big, you get an authentic joy and not just a cheer because I'm part of the show. And you get crowds like you get in NXT when you service the fans too much. And in AEW, when all you do is service the fans, you have fans that can't be objective about what they're watching and get really weird about stuff. They go out there and golf clap everything. They cheer what they're supposed to cheer, whether it's good or bad. And they cheer people who they're supposed to boo because they forget. And then when they remember, they'll start booing. Like, listen to MGF come out to the crowd. It's a huge cheer, and then it goes into boos because everyone goes, "Yay, he's so great!" And they go, "Oh, but he's a bad guy, boo, boo." But I think getting authentic reactions is a good thing because then you get to those moments. Daniel Bryan doesn't become Daniel Bryan by giving the fans what they want every time they want it.
Yeah, he had to face adversity. I get that.
Yes.
Like, this is not uncommon. I'm just saying, I think you could probably make the case that Liv Morgan has already faced enough adversity in her career, just based on what I've done. And that's very, very little now since I've just come back.
Nothing compared to Daniel Bryan.
No, and I get that.
And Micah brings up a great point. Micah says Liv can now win the Royal Rumble and it'll be huge. If Liv wins the Royal Rumble, fans will cry. Where if Liv won last night, fans would cheer. And that's the difference.
That little girl wouldn't have been pissed.
No, she would have cheered. But now when she sees Liv win the title, she's going to cry because she's going to be so happy.
Okay, so let me ask you something, though. So, and I agree with what you're saying, no doubt. Okay, but what if that little girl doesn't make it? What if she's like, I'm done? What if she loses interest? The only reason I say is people's attention spans are so short now.
Oh,
so I just wonder, like, there's so much content now, right? Like, they don't look at ratings the way they used to. Like, it's not even close. The TV still outdraws streaming and stuff, though. You can look at the numbers. You can go to Nielsen and this, that, and the other. But it's nothing. Like, 45 million people watch the finale of MASH. You get 45 million people watching the Super Bowl now. Like, it's basically like, you know, it's 100.
MASH was really good, though. MASH was good.
But I'm talking about, you ain't getting that for a TV show at all. That's because we all had 3 channels back then, right? So
yeah, but MASH was good.
Something.
Nothing's as good as MASH.
Show.
Nothing is as good as MASH. And the world knows it. But yeah, I mean, it's possible. The girl could stop watching. Or if she's rooting her favorite, she's going to keep watching till her fave gets it done because she will get it done eventually. I mean, Becky's not Becky without adversity. Right. Becky became the man because of all the time she was overlooked and all the matches she lost when they were important. Micah's spilling some bullshit. Micah's being toxic. He goes, MJF does not get cheered at all. His mom called him a piece of shit. Dude gets worked so easily. It's insane to me. Micah's like, look at his mom said it, so you know. No, the fact that everyone around MJF is tries so fucking hard to make people think that we actually don't like him gives it all away. Anyways, and he gets cheered when yeah. Gives it away. But I like that Micah gets worked because I'm here to get worked and I'm here to eat crow. It's my favorite things. But what did you guys think about the Becky Lynch and Liv Morgan finish? A lot of people are upset about this roll-up, about Becky cheating. I've seen a lot of people saying that it's burying Liv. I disagree with all of that, but I want to get your guys' take before I go ahead and take you to school. I'm going to start with Justin.
Yeah, no, I didn't hate the finish at all. Like, I even literally went, son of a bitch! Like I was like, shit. I'm like, but then I realized that I saw her when she hooked the rope, and I'm like, okay, well, this gives a reason for, Liv to come back. It's not like it's just over for her, like right there.
Yes. Beard, what do you think?
Yeah, I actually loved it because of that girl's reaction, man.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, of course she had to cheat to win, so now Liv can just carry this down the road. So, like I said, I wasn't disappointed that Liv didn't win. I just was asking you guys if you had felt like she had paid the price enough to be champion. Everything you guys said made a lot of sense to me. So, yeah, I liked it. I didn't have any problem. And then honestly, that girl, I mean, like you talked about the Randy Orton thing earlier. That girl that's infamous now. Hopefully, she's a wrestling fan for life.
Yeah,
because that shit was fucking awesome, and I just loved it.
Yeah.
Micah says that little girl's on Twitter right now and hate commenting on people like Marsh. It's probably true. True. So here's what I thought about it. Here's what I think about it. Because I saw a lot of people saying that other stuff, and I agree with you guys. It's good. And I also think that the idea of like, when the camera turns and you see that girl was that level invested, something's going right. Something's good. You know what I mean?
They put the camera on her multiple times too. So
yeah, that's true. During other parts of the match, when Liv was up, she was like, oh, like it's gonna happen. And then when it didn't happen, she was so emotionally invested. And I was like, I love that. I love that people can be emotionally invested regardless of age. If you want to show the guy crying at CM Punk and say that that's real, but this isn't, like, come on.
Right.
I love that anyone being that level invested in it at all is amazing.
You could put that little girl's face in the dictionary under disappointed, like disappointed, and put her face there. Everybody goes, oh, that's what disappointment looks like.
Yeah.
Like that literally was the definition of disappointment. It was awesome.
So good. Kiro coming through. Cheers to Kiro. What was that, Justin?
I think of a legit reaction of like Bianca's parents at WrestleMania when she won the title, how they almost jumped over the barricade in excitement. Like, just think of what the reaction is going to be when Liv does win this title.
Sure.
Yeah. Here's what I think was awesome about it. I think people aren't talking about it enough. Becky is incredible. Yes. She is on such a level of creating new talent and stars. We've talked about it a lot. It was an incredible match. Liv had a great showing, but here's the difference between looking good in a match and looking good in a loss, because there's a difference. Watch any, and this is going to, I apologize up front. You guys know I'm Mark. If you watch any of the Cody Rhodes matches in AEW when he was TNT champion during his open challenge, everyone said every match was a star-making match. Go find me any of those people who have made it towards any title after the fact, outside of Brody. You know what I mean? He made people look good in the match, but they looked shit in the loss. If you cleanly beat someone every time, they're just not good enough and they fall down the card. They all do. That's what happens. If you lose clean to the champion, then you don't deserve to be near the champion. Although you have guys like Drew McIntyre who continue to get shots left and right. However, the idea being you can look good in the match and look like shit when you lose because you're just not good enough and don't deserve to be there. However, in a match like this, not only did she look good in the match, she looked good in the loss, in that Becky had to cheat, she grabbed the leverage, and she protected the ref. Now there's a case to be made that it's not that Liv wasn't good enough. It was that Liv was so good that Becky had to cheat. And if she had to cheat,
100% with what you're saying. I knew you would make that exact point, and that's why I didn't say, because that's exactly what I thought when it happened, and I was like, well, she had to cheat to win, so like it's only going to be better when Liv actually beats her fair and square. And so, like, Justin, you made that point too, but like,
right?
I knew you were going to say, like, I teed you up for that one because I was like, he is going to fucking crush this out of the park with exactly what I thought you'd say about it.
But on top of that, it's not that she just did it in this one match. Becky's cheated to win ever since she came back. She cheated to win, technically, to win the title to begin with.
Nah, but not really. I mean,
she sucker punched her.
It's
not quite a cheat, but it's pretty close to a cheat.
They
so
didn't
what it
make
does,
it look dirty enough. Like, that's the problem with that. Like, the way she took. That's why I said that's probably been my biggest problem with her in Becky Lynch being back, is that it just felt like Like, why couldn't they had a good match? Like,
they had great matches after that where Becky had to cheat to win. What I'm saying, what Becky's doing is she comes in on top. She sucker punches the champion and takes the title back. Not technically cheating, but then she cheats to retain everyone after that. And what does that do to not just Liv, but literally everyone in the division? It raises all of them up as being potential contenders and anyone who could take the title off of Becky. Juxtapose that with a Bayley, and you had a very similar thing. Bayley was cheating to win, and you had an entire fan base trying to say that Bayley shouldn't be champion because all these other women look so good in their matches, they should be winning. But that's the argument you want. Juxtapose that with Charlotte, and everyone says because Charlotte wins clean in every match, taps them all out, oh, the division isn't even good enough to be around her. Who can possibly beat Charlotte? No one's good enough to. So you have a champion who wins clean as a heel every time, and it destroys the credibility of the entire division. Or you can have a cheating champion who raises the credibility of the entire division. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I hear exactly what you're saying 100%. Like I feel that. And I get that. It has to mean something when you beat the champion too, right? Like you had to overcome them cheating so many times, this, that, and the other. It's I get it. I just wonder, do they carry it to that extent? If they don't, then, and they, I mean, if it's old hat, change it up. You know what I'm saying? Like do different stuff, which they may do. I don't know. Like,
but Becky's got a thing that's working. Why would Becky change it if it's working? You know what I mean? Because the other thing that Becky's doing, which I think is phenomenal from a ref standpoint, she starts the pin. She looks where she's at. She looks at the ref every time to make sure the ref is in position to be looking at the shoulders and reaches for the bottom rope, where most people who cheat and get caught reach for the middle or top rope. They put their legs up above the view of the referee. So the referee has the ability to see it and either does or doesn't see it. She's putting the view beneath and behind the legs while the ref is looking at the shoulders. She's protecting the credibility of the ref too. There's no way the ref could have seen it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It wasn't like the ref was in on it. Yeah, I got that. I never felt that either. I mean, I feel like we've seen that example of that in the men's match recently too, where someone cheated or whatever. But I agree, they didn't make the ref look bad or anything. So like, I'm all over it. You went blank on the.
Yeah.
Got your icon on our screen, but you're on the YouTube feed. Like I still see you on the YouTube feed.
Maybe I'm back now because my camera went out for a second, but it should be back now. So.
Well, you've never left the YouTube. Like your face has been viewed. Like I'm watching the live stream, and your face has always been on.
Yeah.
But for us, for Justin and I and Zoom, we
just have your logo.
Yeah, you stopped the camera for the Zoom. Yeah, but you've never been off camera on the. Yeah, I don't know if that was your intent. If you wanted to be off camera on the live stream, you were not. So you're like scarfing, you got purple dildo back there or something.
I don't know how you knew what color, but
camera. Like I don't know. Like I don't know what my, So anyway, I wasn't trying to be mean.
I wasn't prepared for that.
Yeah, you gotta go laugh.
But yeah, I loved the whole Becky Liv thing, and I think that we're seeing Becky on a whole different level of star making. That for one, we really haven't seen. We saw Bayley doing it, and we're seeing Becky do it, and we really haven't seen other champions do it on this level.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think it's fantastic because the other thing that's going to happen is Becky is building the credibility of the rest of the roster to when she loses. Not only is it believable, but she still comes off. She'll still be important, but she also won't. In some ways, she won't be just head and shoulders above everyone else. She'll be another important person on the roster because she wants to be in a roster of important people.
Yeah.
Juxtapose that with Charlotte. Charlotte wants to be the only important person on the roster.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment 100%. And I knew you were going there. Like I could just the fucking steak. Boom! Right into Charlotte's fucking proverbial coffin. Fuck you, bitch! I hate you! I get it. I think there is something to be. I mean, like that. I think that's the point too. We need to make whether you like the result of the Charlotte Liv thing, the match was really good. You could tell they collaborated so well in the ring together. It worked. It did, like, it was so brutal watching. I watched that Charlotte one again because of how like vitriolic Becky was in the interview,
Yes.
like the actual WWE interview. She was like, it was so hard for her to get like her personal like shit aside. Like she was wearing it on her face. So like, I feel like that match with Liv Morgan and Becky Lynch was such a great match. And my only problem with it is it probably could have been 10 minutes more. I would have watched longer because it was such a good match. And so like how she won, I was like, oh, of course she cheated to win. Like I wasn't surprised at all. What made it good was that girl's reaction.
Yes.
It felt like you were there.
Yes.
Like you're like, it's the best shit ever, man.
So good. So good.
Yeah, my one take on the match was it just, like I said, it wasn't, like I said the night of, it wasn't the cleanest, but I didn't expect it to be like the cleanest.
But it was also a phenomenal match.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It wasn't the cleanest because Liv was so nervous. You could see her just by the way she was taking her deep breaths over and over again. And I'm like, yeah, she's definitely got big match jitters right now. And I'm just watching her. And the match wasn't, like I said, it wasn't the cleanest. It was like a little here and there like spot. You weren't like, it was like, oh, well, that could have been done better. But it was still such a freaking enjoyable match.
But didn't that make her more endearing?
Yeah.
I think that do it on purpose. I'll just say this.
It didn't, but I feel like that gave babyface vibes out. You know what I mean? Like, you started getting behind her because you could see those jitters, and you're all like, I want her to succeed here.
Honestly, because of how brutal the freaking Charlotte Becky match was to watch, that match just felt like, wow, look at these two wrestlers that collaborate. This is what you can get when you get two people working together. And did they do everything flawlessly? No, but they did it so well. You're like, when you can tell when they're enjoying it in the ring, we're fucking enjoying it. Like that's usually a common denominator. And so like, I felt like those two were really having fun. And it was a good match. It's not the greatest match ever, but like, and I'll tell you, like consistently now, the best matches of the nights are the women's ones because they don't never get as much time as the men. So they have to pull their shit off, and they almost always just come out looking spectacular, in my opinion. Like so good. They're the best on the roster, in my opinion.
Yeah, they're fantastic. And what bigger babyface do you have right now on that roster than Liv? Coming out of that match especially. Cheated out of her one time. She finally gets there. She was cheated out of it. This feels reminiscent in some ways and not in a lot of ways, but in a few ways, like the Kofi build. He kept getting screwed out of stuff. We ended up with Kofi Mania because he was shortchanged on the gauntlet match. There was another gauntlet match that he was about to win, and suddenly they bring out Daniel Bryan. They put the New Day tag team in a gauntlet match against him. You have Vince McMahon tell him to his face, you're a B-time player. We're not going to do this. You had Kofi at a contract signing, and Kevin Owens comes out and signs the contract instead. Like, you have all these things that just get in the way. That's just, you're so close and you're cheated out of it. You're so close and you're cheated out of it. It makes those moments like Kofi Mania just stick in people's minds forever. And Kofi Mania meant a lot more for a number of reasons. And I'm not trying to discredit Kofi Mania at all. Matter of fact, this is a mild comparison. But I am saying that those kinds of builds, those kinds of cheating the big baby face out of these little victories, or in this case, a big-time victory. This is her first title shot. She was cheated out of it. It builds that in your heart that when those moments occur, you can explode.
It makes you wonder if Becky's trying to give Liv her moment like she had.
Oh, I'm
She's
sure.
trying to give her the same exact kind of moment like she had.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be
agree.
shocked.
And I wanted to ask you this too, because of how quickly Bianca's reign ended, and they kind of seemed to move it off that story for a bit. Do you feel like maybe they are coming off Bianca a little bit to be like, hey, we need to right the wrong of what we did with Liv? I wonder if you thought maybe that was part of that.
So I feel like they kind of I feel like they moved on from Bianca now. Like, they got to a point where you couldn't keep her in that position for too long, or else people were going to start turning on it.
Yeah, and I think that she's just on. I think you have Bianca in a really good spot where she's shelved but always ready, like a Drew McIntyre. He's not in the title picture, but the question is, when is he back in the title picture? When is that gonna happen? Because you have people like a Bianca and a Drew who come off like they belong in the title picture without being there.
I mean,
You know what I mean?
Drew McIntyre belongs in the title picture.
Sure, and he's ready when they need him, and Bianca's ready when they need her.
It makes
You know what I
me
mean?
like him more that you fucking despise him. I think it just makes me like him even more. Like I'm like, oh, I love this guy. Like, and I know he's just like for you persona non grata. It's so funny to me because like there's so much other stuff I don't like, and there's just something about him charisma wise and stuff too. Now, like I said though, I will tell you, like, we're missing that mystical element. I really want to see the demon, or like I feel like Finn Balor and Drew McIntyre are a lot alike. So it's like if one of them is Finn Balor and Drew's around or on the same roster, I think Finn Balor's on Raw now, right? So, but I feel like it would be cool to see him do, like, you have a little bit more time on Raw to fuck around with the mysticism thing. Like, we don't have the Undertaker. Let's bring back the Demon. Like, let's have Finn Balor done really wrong and then bring back the Demon or something. You know, I'm not saying bring somebody in or different or whatever, but you know, I'm saying, like, you know, use what you have there in the roster in the stable there with old Finn Balor's character, the Demon. Make him kind of the new Undertaker type character. They could just, you know, it's always looming. He doesn't have to be in the championship picture or whatever, but I just feel like it's a missing element that really I always enjoyed about the old school wrestling and stuff.
I don't know if I think the Demon fits the bill as much as a Bray or a Karrion Kross could have, but I agree that element's missing, and that's probably as close as we have right now. But I do
Bray
think
would be awesome. Like, I would love Bray back. I just feel like that needs to happen. I think Bray in AEW is going to be a fucking waste. It's just going to be another guy in that, like, it's like bloated ass roster. And, you know, I'm telling you, like, Ref Marsh and I talked about this. I think we're 6 months away from them. Like, half the guys that started there are gone because there's just not enough time. There's not enough time. Like I was disappointed with all the people that left. Well, one, I didn't watch Charlotte on SmackDown because I came back for SmackDown, right? But like, they moved a bunch of people off SmackDown, but Marsh was like, oh yeah, man, like they got so much more time on Raw, and Raw was kind of doing a little bit worse in the ratings, even though it's the cable show, right? I mean, SmackDown's on network TV, so you know, everybody gets Fox if you have an antenna. So like, you know, like, so like the SmackDown's obviously gonna have better ratings, but they have less time too. So yeah, I just feel like, you know, I don't know, like.
Yeah, I've said it myself multiple times. I don't think Bray Wyatt fits in AEW whatsoever. It doesn't make. There is no proof that AEW can do a dark character right so far. Like,
I don't think they're gonna get him, Justin. Honestly, I think if he was gonna be there, he'd already be there. I don't think he's going there. Is what I'm saying. I don't know that he's.
I hope he doesn't end up there. Like,
I don't think he's gonna wrestle. I think he's gonna go into like motion picture, doing what he's doing, making movies and stuff. I think he's kind of following the Rock's playbook. He didn't get the success the Rock had in the WWE, but I think he is such a creative individual, and he has this. I want to go this creative route.
I'd love to see him make movies. I would love to see him make a Firefly Funhouse horror movie.
Well, he is making a movie right now. I don't know if it is a Firefly Funhouse thing.
They said it's not. They said it's not like the Firefly Funhouse, but that it is his brainchild, you know. But It's not going to be like what we've seen with him before.
And you know what's funny is in Hollywood now, the trend is to make really cheap ass scary movies because it doesn't cost anything to make scary movies. You can make them for really, really inexpensive if you know how to create drama and suspense. I watched the Netflix thing on how they made like Halloween. You're like, oh my God, like they just filmed it at somebody's house. Yeah. It's so funny. But
it's perfect for Bray.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like he has that creative juices, and like you go back and look at all the stuff. I'm so surprised like they did not give him more success in the WWE, because to me, like, he's so creative. I want to see what that guy's going to do next.
Yeah.
You know, and he goes from being like the kind of scary hick redneck from the back of the woods to doing the funhouse stuff. Like, to me, that's such a great range of a guy that had a lot to do with the development of those characters. So, and I feel like we just missing that element. What, like Mankind or the Undertaker and Paul Bearer and stuff like that, or Kane, and to a lot of extent, you just need that. It doesn't even have to be that ominous character that kind of operates out of which the Undertaker did so good for so many years, right? He didn't have to be the champion. He was helping just make that roster strong. Randy Orton is sort of that guy now, right? I mean, but it is cool, man. Like, I just want to see something like.
I don't know that I would say that Bray will never be in AEW, but I do agree with the Beard in that if that was where he was really truly hoping to go, that he would be there already. Right. I think he wants to make this Hollywood thing work. And I think that if it doesn't or if he starts to get an itch for wrestling again, I think he'll be open to conversations with all companies, to be honest. But I think that right now he doesn't have that itch, is what I think. I think he's got to step away.
He's going to make $150 million on a horror movie that he makes that cost him like $7 million. And he is going to, I'm telling you, and he's going to be like the next Rock I don't know that he's going to be like an action star, but he's going to be involved in making stuff. Like, he may not even actually be in the movie. I just kind of believe that this guy has that potential. And
I've been saying that I thought he could be like the next Rob Zombie in that way.
Right. I think exactly what you hit that nail on the head. I think that's exactly what he is going to become. But Rob's in his movies too. You don't realize it, but he's in a lot of his movies. Where I think
Bray could be in a lot of his. Bray doesn't have to be the main role, but he could.
Yeah, I mean, how about the bad guy? I mean, who could play a bad guy as good as that guy?
Yeah.
So, Justin, do you like that idea? Would you watch a movie where he's a bad guy?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh my God, be incredible.
Yeah, I would totally watch it. I would download it or watch it right now. And we could do a watch party. Oh, I wanted to ask you, did you want to do a day one watch party?
I don't see why not. We'll be around.
Justin, would you be in to watch a day one? Do you have Peacock? Are you going to watch the...
Yeah, I'm definitely watching it, so I'll probably just hop in the stream and...
Yeah. I really enjoyed the watch party for... What did we do?
Survivor Series?
Survivor Series, yeah. I don't think we have to do all of them, but like they're cutting them back too, and so it's like, I'm gonna watch this anyway.
Yeah.
Why not watch it? And honestly, Ref Marsh, not to I'm not trying to kiss your ass on this, but it's kind of nice for me, and Justin, it would be nice for me to have you there too, because I have been away from it so long. I could be like, oh, what's the background on this? Or like I'll be honest with you, like when I got back for summer, I didn't know who the fuck Becky Lynch was. Like I was like, oh, this chick's spunky. She's coming out to the rock song, like it's an 80s rock anthem. But I was like, cool. Like I was smiley about it, but I had no fucking idea who she was. So like I didn't know any of the stuff. I had to go back and remember I told you I wasn't a fan of her when I was like, oh, she sucks. Like I don't like her. And then I find out she's a really good person. Then you see her whole backstory and do a little bit of research on her. You're like, oh, I don't have a problem with her at all. But like I said, if you're like a babe lost in the woods, you walk in, you have no concept of what's going on in the thing. Like I was like, what's going on? Who is this lady? Oh, okay. She's spunky and red hair. Oh, she's Irish or some shit. Oh, cool. I have no idea who she is, but she's apparently the man. And so, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm just using myself because that's exactly what it was like for me. But like, I just don't I've grown. Like I like Becky Lynch a lot. I think very highly of her. I think she is the creme de la creme in the women's roster right now. But I love Bianca too, and I love watching her wrestle high level matches. So if you're asking me to pick or choose between one of those two, I don't care.
Yeah,
like I said last time, just wait until Bayley and Asuka come back.
Yeah, that's going to be awesome. I'm really excited for Bayley because her whole thing kind of reminded me of Ref Marsh and his background and how we've talked about this a lot ad nauseum because I know he's a huge Bayley fan. I'm super excited to see her because to me, the diehard wrestling fans, I feel like Stone Cold was that growing up and loved it and always wanted to do it and did it. and was one of the best to ever do it. Like Bailey is like the female equivalent of that to me. And I'm sure a lot of people feel like Becky Lynch is, but what I've seen from that, it feels like she's that person. She was a diehard wrestler. I know that Sasha Banks was too and stuff like that, but like Bailey's kind of seems like that OG. Also, again, biased. I watched the interview with her and Stone Cold and was like, I don't know who this is, but I really want to see her in the ring.
Did you see? There's a show on Peacock that's called Chronicle. Have you seen any of those episodes?
Maybe.
They're pretty short. They're like 30 minutes long, but there's one on Bailey that I even rewatched the other day. Just I haven't seen Bailey in a long time.
I may have watched it.
It is really good. She like writes a letter to herself at the end. Writes a letter to like her 12-year-old self.
I'll watch it after we're done here, actually, because I'll have a couple hours before the wife comes. And since I've been drinking, I'm not going to go plow my ice tonight. So, you know.
Yeah. That and what was the other thing? Oh, did you guys see that Bailey was doing a thing with Levi's and 49ers?
I did see that. And I
was like a 5-minute
that down.
It's like a 5-minute video on their YouTube, and I can go find it. But it was really good. It was fun.
Yeah, I think I watched it.
It was cool. And also, Bailey right now is doing a charity thing. If you go to Bailey's Instagram or even her Twitter, I believe she has a pinned tweet about it. She's doing one of those, like, if you ever had a job that had those trees where you would like donate a gift card or pull a little ornament off of there, and you buy the thing and wrap it and put it under the tree, and then someone takes it to whoever those people are. She's doing like a virtual version of that, so you guys can check that out as well. I feel like there was something else that was the talk of the town that I thought was ridiculous. I mean, there's the Carmella and Corey stuff. I don't have a ton to say about it that we haven't already talked about. Like,
I think Corey Graves is just, he's way too over the top with that. I get it's his woman and all, but like, it's just too much.
Well, maybe you can pull back. Yeah, I mean, I also super subscribe to exactly what he's been saying, is that it's just how he does things on TV, and it's not there is a difference between who he is and what he does on TV, and the people don't seem to get that. But I understand the criticism of like he could pull back a little bit. That makes sense, but I do think people are reacting a bit heavy, especially with this one. I also like the idea people are like, oh, he's telling on himself because he tweeted about it and they didn't even mention him. If you look through the comments of that one, he was mentioned a lot and tagged a lot. And he was trending before he even responded. So it's like, no, it's not like he just vanity searched himself, dug around and found it. He was trending because of the amount of comments in that thing about it that they were even, the original poster was even responding to, saying, yep, exactly, yep, that's it, nailed it. So for people to then start like retweeting saying this clearly wasn't even about him, I can't believe him, fucking relax. Like, you can look at it for 3 seconds and realize that's just not the case. You're just, take everything at such a face value that it's silly at that point. But I can understand people's frustrations. I was frustrated with him for a long time, but I also understand that the idea that he's, being told what to say half the time anyways. And that's the other thing too, is that the same narrative that WWE overproduces all of their commentators and is in their ear and tells them what to say. You can't then say, well, this person's responsible for what they say.
Are we talking about Pat's controversial thing?
No, what did he do?
I don't even know. They said he said something about kick into the quantum something, and it was like disrespectful to somebody who died or something. I was like, what?
I didn't hear about the disrespectful to the died. I did see that when they replayed Shayna Baszler breaking the arms of Nia Jax and Eva Marie, he said that was the future endeavor move.
Yeah, the future endeavor.
That's the one he took some heat on, yeah.
That was hysterical. It was fun.
I couldn't believe it. I was like, really? He took heat for that?
Yeah. People got really upset. Michael Cole was clearly laughing. Pat McAfee could barely even complete a sentence. He was laughing. Michael Cole was clearly laughing so hard he laid out. Yeah. But
I missed it live, and then I seen people talking about it, and I'm like,
I heard it live and didn't know it meant shit. Like, it didn't mean anything. I thought it was funny.
Well, because those two people got released before they ever showed back up on TV.
Who?
Eva Marie and Nia Jax. They replayed Eva Marie and Nia Jax getting their arms snapped.
He didn't know they were getting released. There's no way.
No, they got released months ago, and he said it yesterday.
Oh, right on the replay he said it. Oh yeah,
Yes.
okay. It never even dawned on me. I thought he was being polite to them, honestly.
No, he was saying that their arm got snapped and they got released before we ever saw them again. So he said it was the Future Endeavor arm kick or whatever. It's fucking funny. Like, you can't also sit there and complain when the company doesn't mention these things and then get mad when they do.
I don't think he meant it negative at all.
Me neither.
Like, knowing Pat, he's a fucking positive guy. Like, that guy does not even think negative. He was not doing it to slight anybody. He was being like, good luck in your future endeavors. Like, it was if people are offended by that, like, get the fuck out of here. Like, he literally was being like, hey, I really truly want you to do well wherever the fuck you decide to go.
I think
I'm sure
also
he feels that way about Adam Cole, even though he doesn't publicly say it because he's still playing the stick that if Adam Cole ever came back, they'd have their feud or whatever. So, like, that's bullshit. Anybody
the line Future Endeavor comes from WWE. Typically would tweet out, this person's been released. We wish them luck in their future endeavors. So that's why he said Future Endeavor. However, I do think that Pat McAfee completely does mean it positively, because I also think he's realistic, where I think most of the wrestling fan base is not, which is a bit strange for a fan base that claims to be so smart, that they think that when someone gets released from the position in WWE, that there's a very real possibility they're going to be homeless within seconds, that they have hours to make a new life decision or they're dead.
Better get off that crack rock.
Yeah, that they're on crack within an hour, that this is it, their life savings is gone. I think McAfee is smart enough to understand when someone's released from one job and they've created a brand as strong as Eva Marie and Nia Jax are, that they're going to be okay. And that they don't have hard feelings towards him. He doesn't wish them ill, that they're fine. They're going to be fine. They're going to be fine. And they're going to find a new way, and they're going to be fine. And they're going to be happy.
And he literally was wishing them well on their future endeavors. And he did not mean it as a slight what fucking soever. I will take that to my fucking grave. He did not mean that in a spiteful manner. If you know that, I listen to him every day for 3 fucking hours minimum, talk on about everything under the fucking sun. And that guy does not have a fucking spiteful bone in his body unless you fucking screw him over. Okay? Yeah. If you screw him over, you're fucking dead to him. But if you don't do anything to him, which I'm assuming those 2 women did not, because Pat, you know, and even if they did, I mean, I heard what he said about Beth Phoenix was really cool. Like that's what we should be fucking talking about, is that Beth Phoenix left NXT and Pat, they had Michael Cole and Pat, and that was a super awesome, heartfelt message. I was super glad they showed that. Yeah. It was fucking all class from the WWE. We should be talking about that instead of fucking some bullshit what Pat actually meant in a good manner. And I know he hasn't apologized for it, and he shouldn't, because he didn't mean it in a negative manner. And it pisses me the fuck off that anybody would say otherwise. Listen to what the fucking man has to say, you fucking cancel culture motherfuckers. Like, get the fuck out of here. Bullshit. It's bullshit.
You can pick up our Pointless Aggression t-shirts at prowrestlingforlife.com or prowrestlingtees.com/wrestling on the rocks for all of our Pointless Aggression t-shirts.
Get one. It's worth it.
I'm pissed. It's bullshit. I hate them searching him even, because I know the fucking man. And I also know what he personally has been through. His wife just had a miscarriage. They're on the record on that. And for people to attack him for fucking saying some shit that he meant 100% heartfelt, they can fuck off. Like, really? That's the fucking flag you're gonna bear in this day and age? Oh, this was insensitive to some wrestlers that got released, I think. Fuck off. Get out of here with that bullshit. If he said something disparaging, I'd be the first to say, oh yeah, that was some shit talking. But he would have had a reason for it. It's horse shit, man. It infuriates me that anybody would say that guy would say anything spiteful. They've never listened to him talk. Watch his fucking show for free on YouTube, and you will find out that guy's all class. Like,
yeah, I highly doubt he meant like that.
Yeah.
in like an offensive way.
Yeah,
Adam Cole, if he said it about Adam Cole, he would have meant it badly. Because he's gonna keep that muse up as long as that guy's in the business. But like
that feud is incredible.
Yeah, it's a
great.
shit awesome feud. And it sucks ass that he's not on SmackDown and he's over at AEW. I don't know, defending his girlfriend from MJF, I guess.
But he wasn't defending his girlfriend MJF. He actually let MJF say all those things about his girlfriend and let them insinuate that CM Punk is sleeping with his wife. So either way,
That's messed up.
Your own creative decisions. Do what you like. Hey, I mean, creative is open there. Whatever makes you happy.
It does feel like that's a bridge too far. Like that whole thing. You're like, as you're vocally explaining to me what they're doing in AEW, because I vaguely know a little bit because I've read about it, but it was like, that sounds like such a fucking terrible idea. Like, I don't understand why somebody at the like, the fact that made that off the brainstorming board like blows me away.
It's insane.
Like,
it's insane.
That's such an easy thing to do. Why would you fucking even do that? There's so many other things you could do.
Yeah.
Like, just because the fans know him and that, she obviously too, I want to be honest, I wanted to bring her up. I'm glad you brought this up. Because that Britt Baker is her name, DMD or whatever. She's Britt Baker. I'm really interested in her. And I feel like she is a future
So is
WWE
CM Punk,
superstar.
apparently.
Oh, yeah. No, but I mean, like, her character seems super interesting. Yeah, and you know what? I saw Punk's reaction to that. I think I actually happened to be live when you're like, "Oh, you're sleeping with her," and he, like, it was almost on his face, like, "Really, we're fucking going there?" Like, I felt like even he was like, "Oh, I did not sign up for this." Like, I feel like that was maybe not planned, and he was kind of like, "Did you feel like that was not?" I don't know that was like, because he looked kind of like he looked
Justin.
real life disgusted.
Okay.
I don't even get why he went there. Like, when the hell has this even been a freaking thing? Like, Punk is married, freaking Adam Cole's with Britt Baker, so why the hell are we insinuating that freaking Punk is going behind AJ's back? Like, that just doesn't make any fucking sense.
It felt like a real stretch to try and get a Sunny Days moment, which also in the moment didn't mean anything. It was in hindsight when all the smart fans started rewatching shit with a little bit of backstage info and finding out that HBK thought Bret Hart was sleeping with his girlfriend while Bret was married. And so he made the comment on live TV that Bret didn't like because it created attention at home.
Whoa. Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. Bret Hart, Bret Michaels was pissed because
no, Shawn Michaels. Shawn
What?
Michaels. Shawn Michaels, not Bret Michaels.
I said Bret Michaels, sorry. Bret Michaels is lead singer of Poison, sorry.
Exactly, very different.
Shawn Michaels,
The single every rose has its
Shawn
thorn.
Michaels, who was married but had a girlfriend? Okay.
No, Shawn Michaels was single, was sleeping with another talent. Bret Hart was married, and Shawn thought Bret was sleeping with Shawn's girlfriend, Sunny. So he made a comment about, like, "Oh, we've been hearing you've been having some real sunny days." And Bret was pissed because he knew it was going to cause a problem at home, and it wasn't even true. And Sunny's gone on record a number of times and said they never slept together. Sean was
Bret
all that stuff, but
Bret the Hitman Hart does not strike me as the type of guy that would go down that road. He seems
Right.
like a kind of like a real classy human being. Like, if I lent the guy $100, he'd pay me $100 back. I just have always gotten that impression with that guy as a real person. Like, I know he played a heel for a long time, but like when you see that dude in an interview and he tells you something, you fucking tend to believe it. He seems like a very trustworthy individual, like as a human being. Not knowing Bret the Hitman Hart, he feels like, and I think that might be why a lot of people, because that whole Montreal screw job, that's why a lot of people are still, I mean, there are people that are still pissed if you talk about Vince, people being mad at Vince. There are people that never got over that.
yeah,
You know?
100%.
Yeah. So,
But I feel like
what was that, like 93 or some shit?
Yeah, but I feel like the MJF was reaching for one of those moments, and I will give credit in that I do feel like there was a blurred line there in that I couldn't tell if CM Punk's reaction was disgust that they're going there because it's so lowbrow, or disgusted they're going there because he actually is sleeping with Britt. And I think neither one's the reaction you want on TV. You know what I mean? I think both reactions are bad.
I actually loved that Punk did. I don't know if it was that week, but that Punk called him like the Miz Light or something. I thought that shit was fucking awesome. Like, I thought it was hilarious. I mean, I don't know if it helps AEW out, but I thought it was funny. What did you think of that?
I didn't care for it because I mean, for one, I'm not a huge Miz fan. But if you're going to go out there and say that your best heel in the entire company you have is a less famous version of Miz, then what you're saying is Miz is better and more famous than what we do here.
I think did you write that via Twitter, and I read it, and we maybe had a discussion about this last week?
I think maybe we talked about it last week.
Okay.
What was that, Justin? Go ahead.
Talk about it last week, Justin?
Last week.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. All right. I wasn't sure. I thought we had talked about it, but I did want to say, since you brought up the whole thing, I did like I thought what CM Punk said to MJF was funny. Like, I thought it was funny.
Is. I think it is funny. I just think that there's an underlying thing there.
Yeah.
Let's see, in the chat real quick, Kiro did say Drew gets back in the title picture when Roman drops it and demands a rematch. He also said that because we've talked about it before with Kiro, he owns a company in Canada, a wrestling organization. He says he's now only owns 49% of the promotion he created. Anthem Sports Entertainment bought 51% of what I was creating just to have the CFL sponsorship. I mean, I don't know, Kiro, if you listen to the Jeff Jarrett podcast, My World, but you should, because that's real close to what happened to Jeff Jarrett before he got booted out of TNA. So,
where are they?
Well, they're still around, and Jeff Jarrett's doing a podcast trying to figure out his next move.
TNA is still doing wrestling? I thought they went under.
They're called Impact now. They've rebranded twice.
I thought Impact went under.
They've
Impact's
had numerous moments. They've had numerous moments where they were almost bankrupt, but they've had moments, but they always seem to pull themselves out somehow.
They're like a phoenix rising from the ashes. Every time they almost think you're down, they're like, "Wah! Back up!" Huh?
Yeah,
well, they're a pretty lackluster phoenix. I'll give it that.
Oh, lackluster! It's like It's like a fucking seagull, more like it. It's like a seagull with some charcoal on it.
It's like a firefly, like a lightning bug. A little twinkle.
Like I said, I used to watch them all the time, but I cannot get into them anymore. It's just like, so I just kind of go off. I go off highlights for them now because
this is Impact Wrestling.
Impact,
they're
what are they shown on though? I thought they released their whole roster.
They were on, no, that's ROH. Yeah.
Oh, Ring of Honor did. Okay. Yeah.
Hey,
so
Justin,
what is Impact on? If I wanted to watch Impact, where would I watch it?
Access or Twitch?
Access, yeah.
What the fuck?
I don't even know if they're on Twitch anymore. I think they're just Access.
Yeah, it's AXS is the channel.
Yeah.
Two things real quick here. Kiro does say, I'm watching Dynamite and you can't even hear their commentary team like nearly at all. Dude, their audio mixing there is so bad. That's
bad. Yeah, that's like you said, that's about sound engineering too.
Yeah, their sound engineers are fucking trash. Over the
sound of the fucking ring. Like, seriously?
Yeah. Just like, excited to be part of the team.
For 50 years, Here's your fucking blueprint. Hire one of their old producers. You got to be kidding me.
It's awful, dude. It's awful. And then he even says Punk cut a promo and the audio levels on the mic were so bad you couldn't tell half of what it was that he said. Yeah, their audio is fucking trash, dude. And he goes, can't even hear the ring announcer. I've watched episodes where I didn't realize there was a ring announcer until 3 or 4 matches in.
Dude, that's on like TNT too. That's not on like shithouse.com. You have to go watch it.
Dude, should I buy the domain shithouse.com now that you say that?
If it's available.
If it's available.
If it's available, do you think you can make money out of it?
Kiro does say Access or YouTube for Impact, but it's paid on both. Speaking of paid, Justin, do you watch NWA?
Not anymore. No, ever since they left YouTube, I haven't.
Right. Dude,
Where they at?
What was that, Justin?
It's ever since they left YouTube, I haven't really had the urge to want to throw money out there to see them because again, I don't know what they're actually doing right now. So,
Dude,
Where are they now? What platform? I'm sorry, Ref Marsh. What platform is
are they on Fight now?
Yeah, they're on Fight.
They're on Fight now.
Fight?
So I was looking at pictures, and this is just a side note if you haven't watched it, but did you notice these? Like Mickey James posted some stuff. I saw some fans posting stuff. It looked like their pay-per-view, Hard Times 2, only had like 5 rows of fans.
They did. They said that they did it because of the pandemic. It's just they're following guidelines pretty much.
That's what they said?
Yeah, that's what I heard commentary because I was starting to watch the show, and then I heard them talk about. They said they were following the guidelines of like that, like of the arena there, and they were
Of
keeping
capacity?
it low. Yeah, so they kept it low.
But they had them sit next to each other. Do they not understand that spacing is an issue as well as capacity?
I don't know why. I don't know if there was just an excuse they used, or
I think
if
it was
actually just it was just that poor of an attendance, and that really freaking sucks.
From one angle of the photos I saw, it looked like part of the bleachers were like not released, like pushed back into the wall. And other side, I saw that I've been in there. I was there for the first Hard Times. I even have a term pad from the event signed by everyone who was there, except for Flip Gordon. He's the only one who didn't sign it. But they have like a middle row, which is like 10 seats long, and then they had like 2 side rows, which were like, maybe I'm thinking more 20 and 2 10s on the side, the 2 side rows. It looked like the side rows were completely empty, but that the middle row only had about 5 rows back, but everyone was in the first 5 rows and nothing was behind them. If you're doing COVID, you spread everyone out and you let them sit.
They said it was because they were going off guidelines. That's what I heard. And I was like,
That doesn't feel right.
yeah, no.
Yeah.
What,
I bet I think their sales are down, dude. I think people aren't paying attention anymore.
Are you talking about AEW?
NWA.
Oh, okay. Because I did
still
read
fine.
AEW sales were down, and their ratings were down too.
Yeah.
Sucks.
In fact, it sounded like they were maybe concerned. I mean, again, that's what I said. Like, it's the business, man. I feel like this time of year is just the time of year where shit. Oh, I mean, like, they end a lot of shows in December, so that, like, I think a lot of people stop watching TV. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like because of holidays and shit, you got Thanksgiving and people are shopping and yada yada yada. So people are watching less. And yeah, if you DVR or whatever, but just like you're not gonna DVR wrestling unless you're doing a show like we are. You know what I'm saying? Like if you're not that big of a fan, you don't give a shit if you miss a week or two. You know what I'm saying? So I always feel like this time of year, you know, like the ratings go down for just about every show.
That's a good
Well,
call.
they're one of those companies. They're one of those companies that have that issue where now that they put their stuff behind a paywall, it's like, does anybody really want to constantly like chip out money to watch a product that they don't even know what it's going to be like? It's the same thing for me with like Impact. They do the same thing when they move their stuff over and over again. They've gone from so many different channels, and it's like, so how am I supposed to watch your stuff?
Yeah, I always feel like when you move from platform to platform, people grossly estimate how many people carry over. Yes. I know you're going to get some new fans on a new platform, but you're going to lose. I mean, I think sometimes best case scenario, you retain 50% of your fan base. So if you move from a platform to another platform, like 3 different or 4 different platforms over 4 or 5 years, you're basically saying, hey, I'm going to just cut my fan base in half. We think we can do more with less. And you can't, because you need those fans giving you money. To me, if the only thing I would ever do, then this is the problem with these platforms. They want these exclusivities. The only thing I would ever do is I would say, oh yeah, I'm going to stay on this platform, but in addition to, you can go on this, or this. So you expand the ways people can watch it, because when you're limiting things now, it makes no sense from a business standpoint. If I'm running an upstart company, I'm on Facebook, look what we're doing. It doesn't look like we have anybody on YouTube. That's all I know. We're also on Twitch and Facebook Live, or Meta, whatever the fuck they want to call it this week.
And Twitch.
We're not fooled, Zuckerberg. Anyway.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying, like, is you can broadcast on 3 different things. You don't need anybody's permission. So if someone's willing to pay you for your show and you're like, yeah, but I'm going to keep this deal too. I want to have this. Like, I never understood, like, a good example, Dan Patrick left ESPN years ago. He's on nationally Fox Sports Radio for the most part. Here in Alaska, he's on CBS Sports Radio because he is independent and he can be on anything. He's on ESPN Radio in New York and he's worked for ESPN for 20 fucking years. So, like, it's just funny to me, like, or The Fan, he's on The Fan, which is the equivalent. Like, that was like the first big sports radio in New York, The Fan, 590 The Fan. So, like, if you were on that station, you're pretty big time, in the number one media market in the U.S., which also happens to be wrestling, like, hotbed, right? New York is the WWE's, like, center point. It's Mecca.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I do know, I mean...
Don't cut your fan base in half. That makes no sense.
Exactly.
I do know, and just trust me that I know this, that they are making more money now than they made before. They are getting a significantly less viewership than they had before, but because of the paywall, they are making more money than they were making before with that significantly less viewership. So they're in a position where it's not bad, but I mean, but it does. I agree with you. And then it makes me wonder, I mean, I'm no expert in probably almost anything. It does make me wonder and makes me curious to watch from afar because I'm not paying to watch. What does that mean long term? If you're making more than you made before, let's say you made nothing before and you're making $100 a month now, and I'm sure that the numbers are not that. Is that $100 a month going to grow, or is it going to just stay steady or shrink if you're not bringing in more people? You know what I mean? That's what I wonder. Are they going to be able to grow effectively behind a paywall, even if they are making more money up front?
What do you think, Justin?
Oh, I don't really even know, honestly. It's hard because, like, you kind of want to make your product, like, more accessible to people, not make it harder for people. Like,
how are you going to grow your fan base?
Exactly. Like for Impact, for instance, like they're pretty much on they're diehards at this point. And it's not even that much really anymore. Like their audience has shrunk big time because they're bouncing all over the place and they just seem like everything they do just goes. And it's like I said, I want to get into them again, like so bad, but they just don't do enough.
It's been
to
tough,
make
man.
me want to watch. Yeah, to want to watch their show. Like their show still feels like a pandemic show, even with a crowd. Like it's rough. It's rough. Like it's
That's
rough.
true.
Like
like
it sucks. Like with MLW, like MLW, for instance. They've had the whole, we're going to be on Vice, but then they're not on Vice anymore. And then they're on beIN Sports, but then they're on YouTube. You can't ever like watch their full pay-per-view unless you're there in person. Like, NWA's putting their stuff. Yeah, NWA's put themselves behind a paywall.
It sounds very patchwork. Sounds really patchworky, like they're fucking making it up as they go. You only want to expand. So, like, throw out the paywall stuff, though, like, real quick. I just want to make this one point. Like, throw all that out and throw out that they're fucking more profitable. Like, throw all that shit out. If you cut your fan base in half and cut it in half again, and you're not growing your fan base, you're fucking dead on the vine. Who gives a shit if you're making more money? Because in 7 years, you're going to not exist. Because the fucking business that gave you all that money is going to be like, nobody's signing up for your shit because nobody's seeing it.
Yeah.
And that's my point.
Yeah. I agree. I think it's tough too. We used to do a watch along for Power, NWA's YouTube show, every single week. That's how we got the name Happy Hour with 3 R's and that logo. It comes from that. Now we just put it on our flyers from when we go early and call it a happy hour as a fucking, almost as an homage to what once was. But like, yeah, it was, we used to watch, I used to never miss NWA. It was my favorite wrestling show for a long time. I went and saw Hard Times live and spent crazy money there.
I used to love watching their shows.
And now the bits that I catch here and there, I go, oh, I guess is what they're doing. I will say, because I do like to lean towards the positive if I can, the idea that Trevor Murdoch is their world champion right now
is
I
great.
feel nothing but absolute joy. Like that's one of those tear-wrenching moments when you hear. I wasn't watching the pay-per-view. I heard he was the NWA champion, and I got choked up. Just like he's the guy.
I think of his run in WWE, and I look at that and just like where it went nowhere. And then I look at him in NWA and see him as a world champion, and I just go, God, how can you not want to see him be a world champion?
Trained by Harley Race. Man, I was there when they were getting ready for their they're supposed to be doing the Crockett Cup, and it got canceled, but I was there for a sit-down interview with Sean Mooney, and it was Aaron Rodgers was the NWA champ, or not the NWA champion. He was the North American champion at the time, and Trevor Murdoch was going to be going for it. And I remember the impassioned speech that Trevor Murdoch gave me chills in that moment. And I was like, oh my God, like this guy needs all these titles. Like no one understands legacy the way that Murdoch understands legacy. So to see him as the reigning champion now, nothing but absolute joy there. To see that there's a potential program between Matt Cardona and Trevor Murdoch is absolutely incredible. To be honest, working on the podcast that I've worked on outside of this one, I've seen a lot of interviews with Matt Cardona in the past year since he's been on the independent scene the past 2 years. And I've seen a lot of the behind the scenes stuff because I do a lot of the editing. So I see a lot of the stuff that's not put out. And I'll tell you that he's in my probably top 5 favorite people in wrestling right now. He just is such a cool, awesome guy.
Kidding.
Just so nice. Such a, like, there's so much about him that you just go, God, no. If one person has to succeed here, it's got to be him. Like, one of the things he's talked about in a couple of his interviews too, and I just have related to it so much, and I think people don't give it enough credit, is he talks about how important it is to him to remain positive, and how it's not easy. He says I'm pretty much a negative person naturally, and he goes, it takes effort, it takes intent, and it takes a lot of work to remain positive and think positively. And how can I think about this in a positive light? And he goes, but it's important that I do that. And I think that that's an amazing and incredible place to stand and talk about, because most people just talk about being positive regardless and shut up if you're not positive. And I think it's so important to talk about that there can be an absolute mental struggle in getting to that positive side, but how imperative it is that we make that struggle. You know what I mean? Make it work. Don't live in that negativity. Go ahead, Justin.
He was definitely somebody that when he left WWE, I never would have thought he was going to be a guy that was going to make it on the indies at all. But holy hell.
Yeah.
Has he stepped up like crazy. I can definitely agree with you. Like, he's definitely one of your favorites. Like, he's doing phenomenal right now, like everywhere.
Yeah. And the idea of a Matt Cardona versus Trevor Murdoch match,
very interesting.
I am ready for that, as they say, always ready, right? But I don't. Sorry about the NWA tangent and the MLW tangent and all that. It's a bit.
No, it's cool. I don't mind.
It's a little bit different than what we've been talking about. Typically, we save that stuff for our Thursday episode ones. I do want to shoot back over here to the chat real quick. Kuro does say that he goes, I can't be bought out of my 49%. I signed a contract that I had my lawyer go over that if I am to be exited from the company in any way, shape, or form, my shares... Oop. Hold on, he just said another thing and it bumped it.
What company is this again?
It's his wrestling company, and he's only told us so much about it because they're still pretty young.
Okay.
But he's got a Canadian wrestling company, and I told him if he needs any help or advice that I'm clearly the guy to talk to, so he comes through. He goes, my shares, or my shares try to be bought from me, and my position removed, that all the rights would revert back to me, and I would be allowed to retain a position as an executive board member, as well as having input on creative direction. He said the 3 years and failing of law school helped me to know what to put in a sale contract. And I hear you. I don't disagree with the concept of the verbiage there. I am a dumb person, but I would say it does sound like if you're 49% ownership and your fallback is if they try to deliberately fire me, that I regain company privilege, that their goal would then not to be to fire you or get rid of you, but to just make you miserable so you want to leave. That's all I'm saying, is that I don't want you miserable.
I'm saying you should get a shirt from Mark Bernardin that says, "Be humble, but let motherfuckers know."
Yeah. But that's just a dumb drunk Mark who likes to talk about wrestling because it's one of my favorite getaways. Kuro does say also, I'm sorry, was there input one you guys wanted to make on that? No. All right. He goes, Tony Khan just said this quote, I guess, on some sort of thing. We don't compare ourselves to WWE that much anymore.
Yeah. No, and I think the WWE kind of said the same thing. Like, they probably shouldn't compare themselves.
They shouldn't, but they do. So I like that he says that.
Yeah.
I hope it's also one of those things where he says it and no one brought it up. We're like, Tony, great pay-per-view. And he goes, we're not comparing ourselves to WWE. What? Nobody asked you. I just want you to know.
Well, but if they're going to drop like Men's Light and shit in their promos, then they're obviously comparing themselves to WWE. I mean, that's
clearly.
That's just a fucking bold-faced lie from Tony Khan. Like, you fucking know, like, you're not comparing yourself to WWE?
Oh.
What are you comparing yourself to, the fucking WCW on like how to fail? That I feel like they are WCW. Like, I feel like, except for like WCW had like a fucking 5-year run. It feels like they've had a 5-month run. I will
say this. I did mention before, Jeff Jarrett's My World podcast, to me, is probably my favorite wrestling podcast right now. I would say it's worth a listen because he breaks down a ton of stuff. And in this latest episode they did, there was a lot of things said about TNA, what TNA was doing wrong, what Meltzer said TNA was doing wrong, how Meltzer reacted to those things. And there was a lot of winks and nods without saying verbiage that really made you go, I wonder how much they're paying attention. But let me finish this quote here. He said, 4 hours before the show in Long Island, Tony Khan says, I just came to run a show on Long Island, and it's like, hey, they jump in the front of the line, run a show ahead of me, try to beat me in a market. Well, how did it work out? His immediate next response, you try to compete like a 30-minute window. Oh, he's talking about the head-to-head. It was head-to-head on Fox, FS1 against TNT, and I didn't make that choice for them to extend the broadcast by 30 minutes. I was very surprised to see it. My comments were genuine when I saw it.
None of that had to do with AEW at all. It had to do with the World Series. That's the stupidest fucking thing ever. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. The fact that the Smackdown was on FS1 had nothing to fucking do with AEW, or it had everything to do with the World Series of fucking baseball, which draws a higher rating than any time of the year for that sport. Because there are some people that only watch the World Series because it's on network TV. You don't have to have ESPN or some baseball package for it. So that's fucking ridiculous. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. This is Tony Khan that said this. He's a fucking idiot. Like, if that business makes it as long as WCW, it'll be by sheer dumb luck, in my opinion. Seriously. Like, are you like, if I know the reason fucking Smackdown was on FS1 and probably didn't do the rating because nobody has FS1 is still a fledgling sports network. It's been around like 30 fucking years. It's still fledgling compared to like ESPN and shit. So like, there are a lot of carriers that don't have it. NBC basically just folded NBC Sports, and they were only around for like a decade. They're still around on like Peacock and stuff, but the channel's going away. I think by the new year there will not be an NBC Sports Network channel. You either have Peacock and you can watch their sports content that way, or they show it on their national channel. I mean, they may show it on USA or the other channels they own if it's not big enough to deem putting it on like network TV. But like, what is Tony Khan talking about? It had nothing to do with AEW. And we don't even know that AEW's numbers are factual. I've heard rumors that he's been buying tickets for shows and stuff like that.
One thing we do know about the ticket sales is that scalpers will buy the tickets up real quick. And as you get closer to the show, you can see the tickets drop to about $3 a ticket because they can't flip them. So a lot of their sellouts are not genuine sellouts as far as butts and seats, but they are genuine sellouts in the idea that the tickets were bought by somebody, but not by somebody who intended to attend to the show. But I don't know how bad that's gotten versus how bad it was, because there was a few of them that were very bad. I know Arthur Ashe Stadium. I know the big CM Punk one that everyone was talking about. Right. You could go for $3 if you waited for day of, and there was whole sections that were $3 that people. But
that's also like, those are awesome venues, but it's also in Queens, New York. It's not the easiest place. You can't just roll on up there. It's a pain in the ass. You have to take the train or pay for parking.
So scalping a ticket's dumb. It's not easy. People were losing money on that one. Justin, were you about to say something?
No, keep going.
Well, and that holds a shit ton of people, I believe.
Just keep the party rolling.
Keep them rolling. Yeah.
Yeah, I do think I agree with you though. I can say with the utmost confidence that the idea of moving 30 minutes into the night and going quote head to head was not only not to do with AEW, but it wasn't even a WWE decision. It was a Fox decision, and it was a make good for moving Smackdown, their number one show, to, like you said, a lesser network that was going to have less viewership. So the least we can do is give you a half an hour commercial free on this other network. And it had nothing to do with them. And I can tell you that with absolute confidence.
And how does Tony Khan not know that, Ref Marsh? That's what baffles my fucking mind.
Because he doesn't listen to sources. He listens to Meltzer. Meltzer, tell me what you think. And what's Meltzer going to say? Whatever you want to hear, boss.
And hold on a second. On top of that, like, is he fucking paying attention? Like, is he like, because he just said they're not comparing themselves to the WWE. So if he's not comparing himself to the WWE, why does he fucking care if the WWE moves the show and adds a half hour commercial free? Sounds like the WWE's all living in his fucking head to me, if he's talking about it.
He's trying his hardest to make sure that the attention's all on him. And I'm
not like this WWE, like, I'm not anti-AEW. Like, I think Ref Marsh is fair to say does not like AEW. Like, I'm not anti it.
Okay, fine.
I'm not anti-AEW. But I'm like, so for me, like, I'm willing to give anything a chance. If AEW starts to intrigue me more, I'll watch AEW. I'm telling you, they're the guy that's running it, I actually thought really highly of him until tonight. I was like, this guy's a fucking idiot if he doesn't know this stuff. Like, this is not like, now if he knows it and he's like using it to kind of like play a heel in the media, then that's kind of uber cool. And I kind of like that. Okay. So like, that's, if he's doing that, then I have no issue at all. Like, he's, and how else can you be a heel to Vince McMahon by doing it in a public forum? Because, obviously AEW and WWE don't cross platform on anything.
Yeah.
So it's not like they could do a promo and do it. And he could, I guess. He could do a promo against Vince. Wouldn't make any sense because you're actually literally advertising for fucking somebody else's product on your own product. So
he did once on Impact. Tony Khan cut a promo against Nick Khan. It was really funny and stupid.
Oh, really? That's badass, actually. That's a baller move. And that's what I'm saying. Like, he could cut a promo against Vince, but don't say you're not thinking of the WWE and then bring up why the WWE moves shit. Like, that to me does not. Like, I mean, I know he didn't say those things consecutively, but I do think the AEW should not compare themselves to the WWE because they're not fucking close to it.
No, they're a different type of entity. Kiro does say, so I have a friend who went to buy AEW tickets and half the seats were on verified resale. They called the contact information for one of the verified resales and it redirected to a front reception desk of some kind of office. I don't know. That I felt like they've been fudging the fucking numbers in all kinds of sporting events for a really long time. Because I've been to games that are sold out and you're like, no. Like, fucking no. Like, remember when we went to saw the Penguins at Madison Square Garden? That was a fucking sellout. Like, that was a sellout. Like, there were very few empty seats. Yeah. That's a fucking sellout. And there are always going to be some empty seats because people are going to the bathroom or getting this or that or the fucking other. But like that was a packed ass arena. Yeah.
And we couldn't see like up to the left or like I couldn't see the ends, but I think they announced pretty close to a sellout.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fucking people, and it's only like 15,000 or some shit.
Yeah.
You know,
For sure.
so.
I think the last thing we want to bring up, and it sucks to end it on a sour note, but my understanding is from what I remember you saying, Mr. Beard, is you had a positive thing on it, was the Jeff Hardy situation some people were talking about. He was sent home from a Texas show. He was a little erratic or maybe I should say lethargic in ring. And they had a, quote, rough night, and he was sent home after going through the audience and being chased by security. He was not there for the next following shows, and Rey Mysterio took his place. But you read something that was on a more positive light on where we are with all that?
Yeah, his brother tweeted out with him that he's okay and he's fine, and he just it looks like he's going to get a little bit of R&R. He is my age, by the way, 44 years old. I think we were born the exact same year. And from what I understand, he has done this out of high school. So he's been doing wrestling in some form or another for almost 30 fucking years. So I can imagine he probably just needs to take a break a little bit more than most. He, you know, I can tell you it didn't affect anything I saw from him in the last couple of weeks. He looked fine. He looked as good as anybody else in the ring. So, but yeah, it looks like he's okay. They didn't come out with anything. They didn't disclose any personal medical stuff. Yeah. I'm not saying he wasn't exhausted or, you know, he could have also gotten COVID or some shit. I don't know. But I mean, they didn't say that. And I know the WWE is probably not going to broadcast that anyway. Yeah. They're just going to take the fighter out of the thing for a while, or the wrestler, the superstar, or whatever. So I'm not saying that's what it was. It didn't seem like that because his brother wouldn't post a picture with him, but it like Matt posted a picture saying, yeah, Jeff's okay. Thanks for everybody that reached out, yada, yada, yada. And then I think he did sign an extension. And then we talked about, maybe he was the guy that signed the extension, because we talked about he wanted to wrestle with his brother again. And we speculated it could be an AEW. And now it looks like there's no way it would ever happen in AEW if he signed an extension. So that's good news. Nothing against AEW, but again, like,
yeah, my one concern about it is I hope Jeff's not going back down that road again, because we don't need to see Jeff Hardy back down that road again.
Well, what if they just did it for like 3 matches or something? Like, it doesn't have to be some long drawn out thing. Like, you think they could put together like 3 really good matches with Jeff kind of carrying the load? I feel like they could put on some pretty entertaining matches. Are you researching, Marsh?
No. Well, I was trying to find the picture you said he took with his brother, and I'm just not seeing it on Matt Hardy's thing. But that's not to say that I'm just not.
I know Matt just made a tweet. That's all I seen was he just.
Yeah, it was a tweet.
Just in case you're wondering, just in case you're wondering, Jeff's okay.
Okay, but what Justin's trying to say, Mr. Beard, is that Jeff Hardy, I mean Matt Hardy as well, but not to the extent of Jeff Hardy, has a history of abuse, chemical abuses with drugs and alcohol.
I knew that.
And the concern when we saw something like this was just that a potential relapse was not off the table, and it's one of those things where you want the best for him. You know what I mean? You respect a guy so much, and you see so much good from him that
we've seen him have bad moments, like, again,
you're talking about Jeff Hardy.
Yes.
Yeah, the TNA Victory Road thing will never, I don't think anything will ever be as bad as that for Jeff, but my God, let's not ever see anything like that for him ever again.
Yeah, I fell down the rabbit hole in Matt Hardy's Twitter, and I apologize for that. And like, he apparently tweets a lot of stuff that.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll just say this. It seemed like he was okay. I think I saw it on WrestleMania, but it looked like it was a Twitter post. I will just say, I'm never ashamed that I watch other people's stuff. I always want to see what's going on. I'm not going to shit talk some other podcast or anything like that. Not my thing. I would want anybody to do it to us. So like, whatever. But yeah. I mean, I hope he's okay. It seemed like he was, but who fucking knows? Like, that's the problem with the internet now. You don't know what you're getting is truthful or, fan conspiracy theory or whatever. You got to fucking double and triple check everything. And so, like, WrestleMania could have, we do not consider ourselves a news show. So, like, I don't have to recant anything because this is all like fucking editorial opinion based wrestling content. So I don't give a like, it doesn't matter in the end. I mean, I really hope Jeff Hardy's 100%. Like, that does matter. I don't want him being ill or sick or, if he needs to take time off though, because he's walking down the road of being a substance abuser, hey, fucking take the time off. That's a good sign, in my opinion. True. So not a negative sign, the negative sign is him being erratic in the ring, but it sounded like it was, let's hope to God he's not off the wagon, as they say, so to speak.
Yeah.
So that would be not cool.
Yeah. I mean, even like when you take Moxley into account, the idea that getting help is the right answer every time. So it's one of those things. It looked a little weird. We don't have any real answers here. Kuro is saying, from the way Matt Hardy said it later on, it sounds like something happened with his wife and child she's expecting. Could be. Also, we saw a post from Beth Phoenix where it was just a picture of her holding a little baby's hand. And we don't know if that means anything's wrong there, but if there is, then absolutely well wishes and thoughts going out. But
for sure.
Yeah, it was just one of those things where it just looked bad in the moment with a guy like Jeff, who has the history he has. It just raises concerns, but not the kind of concerns like from a business standpoint, from like a human standpoint. We really want the best for a guy like him. So, inspiring guy, fantastic talent. Anything that you think we're missing here, Justin?
Nothing that I really can think of, really, like off the top of my head.
Yeah. Mr. Beard, what does the Beard want to know?
Well, I just like, what do you guys think of this Roman Reigns Brock Lesnar Day 1 match? I'm excited. I do think my prediction is Sami Zayn will interfere somehow, costing Brock the match. And hopefully we get some more of that Sami and Brock gold. I'm also kind of hoping this leads to maybe Brock being on a little bit more and not as to be expected. Like he's like, oh, he's going to be on 3 times and blah, blah, blah. There'll be this, that, and WrestleMania. So like maybe because maybe the fan reaction to Brock is like, yeah, we want to see more of this guy. And quite frankly, we kind of need it. Like we need it. I just can't, I don't like, and I love Drew McIntyre, but I'm not even sure I want to see Drew McIntyre versus Roman Reigns.
What if this happens? What if because I think the interesting thought about it is that the Usos interfered last time to make sure that Roman got the win.
Sure.
And Paul Heyman threw the title in there, said, you know what to do. So the discussion has been Paul Heyman's loyalties. What if the Usos come out to interfere and Sami Zayn takes out the Usos?
Yeah, could be.
And we end up with more of a fairness between Brock and Roman. Whether Brock wins or loses, I don't know. But what if on the other side of that, you end up with... I say, what if the Usos interfere, cost Brock the match again, but Sami's out there to defend against the Usos, and then you end up on SmackDown with Brock and Sami versus the Usos?
I love that idea. It won't happen because it's too fucking good. They won't do it. It's too fucking good. I love that.
Oh, God.
But they're not gonna fucking do it. That's the problem. That would be fucking awesome. And
imagine a whole match where Brock Lesnar starts the match, has the whole match, Sami's just on the ring apron, Brock Lesnar wins without ever tagging in Sami, and Sami comes in celebrating like he just won WrestleMania. And he keeps saying, like, we did it. We're such a good team. And then his whole narrative becomes the great team that is Brock and Sami, where Sami did literally nothing in any of it.
Just have him jump up in Brock's arms, and Brock just catches him and looks at him like, what is your problem?
Yeah, I mean, I could go a half a year with more Sami, and Brock. That was fucking television gold. Mm-hmm. I fucking enjoyed the shit out of that.
And you call them the Canadian alpha males, and you make a t-shirt.
Oh my God. I forgot Sami Zayn was Canadian, and you could fucking do that. Hold on a second. I have
Yeah.
to take this from the commander-in-chief here.
Saskatchewan. From Saskatchewan.
Could literally just be outlines of them just hold like arms around each other's shoulders, just looking up.
Yeah, 100%. Canadian alpha males. The T-shirt. Kiro does say Brock wins the title at day 1. Roman wins it back 28 days later at Royal Rumble. I don't know. I don't know.
I still have a bad feeling they're holding it off till Drew.
I don't think you can have Drew beat Roman. I think that would be a fucking...
I just have a weird feeling that's where we're going with this. I think we're just gonna have. I think Drew's gonna have this moment where he's gonna end up finally getting to stick it to Roman with the whole "You're my favorite number 2." Well, guess what? Now you're my favorite number 2, and I'm gonna be like, oh god.
I'm gonna number 2 on your chest kind of a deal.
So you're from Saskatchewan, eh? Oh, about the Saskatoon? Or your Regina? No, near Regina. Oh
Yeah,
no,
just wait.
Moose
I'm
Jaw.
still
No, Moose
waiting
Jaw.
for
Moose Jaw,
Sports
eh?
Gear to catch your Drew McIntyre impersonation every time.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. It's been a while. Been a while.
Oh, that wasn't a Drew McIntyre impression. That was just a Canadian accent.
Well, be prepared for Marsh to drop a Drew McIntyre accent.
Oh, do you have a Drew McIntyre, Marsh? Oh.
Yeah. It's been in the canon for quite some time, but
Drew
Drew hasn't done a lot lately.
Oh, I want to hear this.
Well, it used to happen more during Drew's story time because Drew used to come out and tell stories. He doesn't come out and do. Do you remember? Were you watching with Drew's story time?
No, I don't think so.
It was garbage, and he would come out and tell a story about how he was related to everybody famous that's ever happened, and I used to come out.
It was a big ego trip. It makes me like him even more.
Now he's just a homicidal maniac with a sword.
Yeah, I like the homicidal maniac with the sword, but he's still a baby face. We're not making him a baby face. Like I like
heel as hell. What human being runs out in the middle of a battle royal and chases 20 people out of the ring with a fucking sword the
he
size
should have
of a
been in the
giraffe?
battle royal. It's like I should be in this. I loved it. And he keeps his character relevant and he doesn't have to have any real interaction. I don't know. I thought it was great. I fucking loved it.
He's a heel in disguise.
I again, if he's pulling, I like it better that he can pull it off as a baby, like he's a baby-faced heel. Yeah, I mean, he just comes across likable, I guess, for me. And I know why people despise him too. I get it. I mean, I'm not baffled by it. I'm a fan. This is what Ref Marsh wants to end the show on. Is talking about his favorite wrestler of all time, Drew McIntyre. So, yeah, like the fucking goat. So yeah, I enjoy the guy. I get a smile on my face. I think if I was a little kid, I'd be really like he'd be my favorite. But like he just like makes me smile. Like I enjoy seeing him on the ring. And then honestly, the fact that I know Marsh fucking despises him just makes me like him even more. I'm like, I wonder if Marsh is like, oh, it's time to take a shit. I'm not watching this trash. Or like he's like, just mocking him the whole way with your accent. Now that I know you do an accent, I have to see that. So we're gonna do the watch party, right, for day 1.
Yeah, for day 1, and coming up towards the end of the year, you, me, and Kevlar on the Rocks, we're gonna do a Boozies Award. We give out our own yearly awards of some topics. You'll be getting a list here shortly, Mr.
Nice.
Beard, to fill out, and one of our episodes is going to be strictly an award show, giving
That's awesome.
Giving out the Boozies of year-end excellence. I don't know that we're going to do any, because a lot of times we would do like a worst of the year as well as I think we're going to avoid probably the worst ones and go strictly with the best ofs. So
Let's just say the worst was the pandemic.
I've seen things worse in the pandemic, if I'm being honest.
It wasn't all bad in the pandemic.
Yeah. I mean, Bailey
No, but
and Rowan.
I'm not talking about wrestling in the pandemic. I'm just talking about the pandemic as a greater entity to what it's done to the world.
I would say I would rather live through another pandemic than some of the wrestling storylines that I've seen in the past.
I guess you do want to do a bad part then. I mean, you just talked yourself into doing the fucking Razzies for your own award show. Give the good shit and the bad shit. You might as well.
There are some angles that are worse than a pandemic. Kiro does say, so if Brock Lesnar and Sami Zayn are a team and Brock Lesnar lives in Canada now, Saskatchewan, eh? Says, is this a new Team Canada? I think it's the Canadian alpha males, I think is where you go with it. But, guys.
Oh, God, no. You don't call them the Canadian alpha males. Though.
Yes, you do.
No, because you have Team Alpha Male already.
No, you have the Alpha Academy, and then you have Team Alpha Males, Canadian Alpha Males, and then you have Otis and Chad Gable get in their face and be like, that's kind of our thing, and you have Brock Lesnar just lean in and breathe on him to go, you know what? You can use the thing.
So hold on. This is not, contextually why I don't think they'll do that, because there is actually a Team Alpha Male. It's an MMA gym out of Sacramento, and it's big, like Uriah Faber, Dominic. There's been some big name, not Dominic Cruz, but Cody Garbrandt, some guys who were like UFC, WEC champions that fought out a Team Alpha Male. So but
they're not Canadian alpha males.
Yeah, if you say Canadian alpha male, right? Okay, but I thought you said Team Alpha Male. Like,
no, Team Canadian alpha males.
Yeah.
And secondary, I challenge any one of those UFC fighters to get in the face of Brock Lesnar.
I mean, Overeem liver kicked him into retirement. So, like, Cain Velasquez beat his ass for like 5 rounds because he could. Like, I felt like he could have ended the fight like in the 2nd round, but he was like, "No, I'm gonna fucking beat on this motherfucker." So, I think there's a lot of guys who got in front of Brock Lesnar and kind of won because he's not there and he's not the champion. So, Yeah,
well, we'll see. Time will tell. Guys, we're going to be back tomorrow night.
Brock Lesnar is a UFC Hall of Famer in my mind. He's not there now, but he should be. I mean, he's the biggest pay-per-view draw before Conor McGregor. That guy was and he was that because of the WWE.
Yes.
Like, and his cultural, like, people being culturally aware of him. So, and I love that he's back, and it looks like he's having fun. And I want to see more of that Sami Zayn stuff.
Yeah,
that would be great.
He's just about as much as WWE Hall of Famer as The Miz is. Because The Miz is a WWE Hall of Famer as far as I'm concerned.
I want to see them. I want to see them in a cage. Put them in an octagon. Miz and Brock. Put Brock and Miz in the octagon and see how it turns out.
How about Brock and Miz versus see, now that Morrison's gone, it would have been like Miz and Morrison against Brock and Sami Zayn. That would have been fucking hilarious too.
That'd be
but
good.
Morrison's gone. They released him, so we can't have that.
99% dripstick is all he would have gotten.
Yeah. Either way, I want Brock versus Miz now. In an octagon, not in WWE, straight up in the UFC. Miz's first UFC fight against Brock Lesnar. Let's make it happen.
Put him in the Lion's Den.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, let's do it. All right, guys. I think we will be back tomorrow night here in the dive bar of the IWC for a brand new episode 1. We're going to break down NXT 2.0 and War Games, some of the old AEW Dynamite. War Games.
War Games.
Doing that.
The finale that was Johnny Gargano and Kyle O'Reilly. Cheers and good riddance.
Wow.
Damn.
I'm watching Johnny Gargano cry and cut that promo, and I'm just going, na 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 na.
Wow.
Hey. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But and then Grayson Waller turned babyface in my household. However, we'll talk about that tomorrow night. And on brand new episode 1 right here in the dive bar of the IWC. Guys, we are at WRT the show. I am at Ref Marsh. With me today at Beard_Sports as per usual. But our guest of honor, the Don of the IWC, the curator, Mr. at JustinTime211. Give him a follow. Give him a subscribe. Whatever it is he needs. Buy my t-shirts. I'll tell him it's from you. We will be back for a brand new episode 1. Guys, that's the last call.
Cheers.
The producer lady here thanks for tuning in to drink by following and putting the I in subscribe on Twitch. Or subscribe and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to us. Cheers!
I would never have a drink with wrestling on the rocks.